Chapter 748. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. As Yi Shang cultivated, the soul power he left in the silver dusk spirit sea naturally changed. The most obvious change was that it had a 5-colored glow. She didn't quite understand, but she knew that Yi Shang must have encountered some special opportunity. She had never heard of such a situation before, for his soul power to carry the 5-colored glow. While Night Sorrow was cultivating, the others left. Night Sorrow's strength had greatly increased, which gave them the motivation to move forward. Xikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi were very happy to see Night Sorrow successfully passing the lightning tribulation. They went to the wooden boat to make tea. In the evening, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. The cultivation of the myriad Dao treasured tome had also been completely stabilized. After tidying up his robe, Night Sorrow went to the wooden boat. 13. Congratulations. Aoi poured a cup of tea for Night Sorrow and said, "Yes, thank you, 6th senior sister. My cultivation level is not a problem, so it is not difficult for me to break through. I have a high-grade spiritual weapon, so I am not afraid," Night Sorrow said with a smile. Night Sorrow, when you encountered the lightning tribulation last time, you broke a pair of claws. Think of a way to get another pair in the future. Xikong Chuyu said, "I might have needed it in the past, but not now. After I infuse energy into my hands, they are not inferior to a low-grade spiritual weapon." Night Sorrow looked at his hands and said, "You've cultivated your body to the point where your spiritual essence fumes soar into the clouds. Currently there is no one like that. Even the elemental body cannot be compared to yours," said Yang Lei, looking at Yi Shang's head. "I still have a lot of desolate stones. I didn't refine them earlier because my body is on the verge of leveling up. If I want stability, I won't be able to level up quickly, so I didn't refine them." "I can do it later," said Night Sorrow. "The last time you refined the desolate stone, you went into seclusion for more than a month. Are you going to do it again?" Yang Lei said gloomily, "I won't. This time I'll refine a little less each time. I'll come out more often to accompany you guys," Night Sorrow said with a smile. "I know you're here to improve your cultivation. It's business, but I'm a little reluctant to part with you. I'm not used to not seeing you for so long," Yang Lei said in a low voice. "I understand. What's more, last time I brought back some elixirs from Medicine Valley, but I don't know how Master arranged them. Here are some more. You can take them back and give them to your disciples. Take it as a gift from me as your martial uncle." Night Sorrow took out some more elixirs. "Is that okay? You have so many senior brothers. You can give them to our disciples." Aoi was a little hesitant. "Sai, it's a burden for 13. But I think it's for his fiancée. If we give it to our disciples, no one will say anything. Besides, 13 didn't shortchange any one of your senior brothers and junior brothers' cultivation resources, right?" Yang Lei said. "There shouldn't be a problem," Xikong Chuyu said. "As a disciple of Medicine Valley, I have the obligation to make Medicine Valley rise. But from a personal standpoint, I also have my own feelings. Although that's what I said, I can't hurt the relationship between our senior brothers. So I won't keep them. You can give the rest to your senior brother," Night Sorrow said with some emotion. Aoi and Yang Lei nodded. They knew that Night Sorrow was tired, but they couldn't say it. They didn't want to hurt the relationship between their senior and junior brothers. "Chuyu, don't just focus on your cultivation. Follow the 2 senior sisters and get some fresh air. After we're done with Medicine Valley, we can go home and visit," Night Sorrow said to Xikong Chuyu. He felt guilty towards Xikong Chuyu. Back then, when he was still a small fry, Xikong Chuyu was willing to be with him. But now he already had 3 fiancés. The 4 of them didn't return to the mansion. Instead, they chatted on the wooden boat. At night, they made a bonfire, roasted fish, and drank some wine. After dawn, Night Sorrow sent the 3 girls away. Then he returned to the mansion's secret cultivation room and entered the space-time pagoda in a flash. The blood in your body is rolling like a tide, and smoke is rising into the sky. Your body's cultivation has improved again?" Seeing Night Sorrow enter, Shi, who was meditating, stood up. "Successfully leveled up. Make a pot of hot tea. How have you been recently?" Night Sorrow pointed at the teapot and asked. "I lost a lot of my cultivation. Now that I've recovered to the peak of the Venerable Realm, it will take some time to enter the Saint Realm," Shi said. "Didn't I give you the Dragon Spirit pills? How many have you used?" Night Sorrow asked. "I used 7 pills, but I can't use resources to level up at the moment. That will make my foundation unstable. Before entering the Saint Realm, I have to be steady," Shi said. "You have experience in this area. You can decide for yourself. You don't need the dragon spirit pills anymore. Give them back to me. You used 7 pills. You're really something, Night Sorrow said. Can't you give them to me? I still need them when I enter the Saint Realm. Although they can't increase my cultivation by 1 level, they're still a great help. She took out the pill bottle, but she was reluctant to part with it. Well, you can keep them. But I don't understand. The energy of the dragon spirit pills can increase the cultivation of a venerable by 1 level. You were a level 7 venerable at that time, and now you're a level 9 venerable. You took 7 of them? How did you manage to take them? Night Sorrow asked. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation what? I'm different from other cultivators. I have the realm, the foundation, and the strength of my soul. What I lack is energy. So after taking them, I compressed them with all my strength. 2 dragon spirit pills were enough to replenish my cultivation by 1 level, she said. I see. Then I understand. You can use them as you see fit, Night Sorrow said. Then I'll keep them. My cultivation speed is fast. It's only good for you, she said. Also, how's the cultivation of your chi and blood force? Night Sorrow asked. Then I'll be direct. There's a special situation. The resources you gave me can increase my chi and blood force, but they can't be stabilized. In other words, after I use my ultimate skill, it will be consumed. However, the essence you left in my body is different. It's equivalent to merging with my body. If I cultivate diligently, my chi and blood force will be fundamentally improved. Then, when I use my ultimate skill, Wind Escape, I won't suffer from a loss of chi and blood force. She said, but her voice wasn't loud. What she meant was that she still wanted more. But she couldn't say, Night Sorrow, come and take me. I'm also confused. Actually, it was my intention to subdue you and make you my fighter. I didn't want to take advantage of you, Night Sorrow sighed. In fact, Night Sorrow felt that it was normal to subdue Shi. After all, Shi was the one who dealt with him first. However, now that he had a relationship with Shi, Night Sorrow felt that he was lacking and was somewhat disgraceful. I've been cultivating longer than you, so I can understand your mentality. Some things are my own fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I've accepted my fate since I was captured by you. If you want to fight, I can fight. If you want something, I can give it to you. My only hope is that you can retain some dignity, she said. Chapter 749. Geniuses remember love in 1 second? I will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. Okay, if you need me to do anything, just tell me. As long as I recover my cultivation to the Saint Realm, I won't be afraid of ordinary beginner saints. She said. Sometimes I really don't understand how things ended up like this. Night Sorrow sighed with emotion. Maybe this is fate. I've been cultivating for a long time, but I didn't expect to fall into the hands of a venerable and even lose my virginity. She sighed and said, Virginity? Night Sorrow was stunned for a moment and looked at Shi. Are you playing dumb? You didn't see the blood at that time. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Shi's eyes were burning with anger. I thought you were hurt, so I didn't think in that direction. You've been cultivating for a long time, but you haven't married? Night Sorrow was surprised. No. In the past years, I've been obsessed with cultivation and always wanted to suppress xianxia, so I didn't think about the relationship between a man and a woman. Now that I'm with you, I don't need to maintain my dignity. I want to cultivate and improve the fundamental strength of my body and the strength of my chi and blood. Shi nodded and looked at Night Sorrow. I didn't think about it, but with you like this, how can I bear it? Night Sorrow smiled bitterly. In fact, he had been avoiding having sex with Shi, but the reality was different from what he expected. Then Shi went behind Night Sorrow and undressed. She still had to maintain a little dignity, so she didn't want to change clothes in front of Night Sorrow. Yishang took off his robe, turned around, and carried Shi to the spiritual jade stone block he was cultivating on. Then he lifted Shi's 2 jade-like legs with both hands and began to break through. D had XK hair. Night Sorrow, who had cultivated the outer section of the myriad Tao Tome, had a strong body which was not something Shi could withstand. Her cries reverberated in the space of the space-time treasure pagoda. However, not long after, her cries turned into sounds of pleasure. The battle between the two lasted for a very long time, and only ended after 2 hours. You don't know how to take care of people at all. You and your woman would never be like this. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and said, Like you said, she's my woman. You're not, Night Sorrow said as he put on his robe. That's why you do as you please. She felt a little wrong because Night Sorrow didn't pity her at all. Night Sorrow put on his robe and sat down on the spirit jade block. At the same time he took out the desolate stone and began to cultivate. She also began to cultivate. She wanted to refine the essence energy that Night Sorrow left in her body. Night Sorrow cultivated for 8 days. Because of the increase in his cultivation, Night Sorrow's speed of refining the desolate stone had also increased. The refining time had also shortened. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow took out another desolate stone and continued to refine it. After entering the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda for a little more than half a month, Night Sorrow had refined 2 desolate stones. After sensing his body, Night Sorrow discovered that while increasing the energy attribute of the myriad Tao Tome, his cultivation had also increased by a lot. After all, the desolate stone didn't only contain the power of desolates, it also contained pure energy. After glancing at Shi, Night Sorrow didn't care about that thirsty gaze and directly left the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. Half a month had passed. Aoi and the other 2 must have returned. He wanted to go out and take a look. Otherwise, the 3 of them would be anxious again. After exiting the secret cultivation room, Night Sorrow saw the 3 women and old man Gu drinking tea in the courtyard in front of the mansion. "You're very obedient this time." Seeing Night Sorrow come out, Yang Lei smiled and nodded. "Isn't it because I was afraid that Ninth Senior Sister would be angry?" Night Sorrow sat down and said with a smile. "Okay, if you're obedient, I won't be angry," Yang Lei said as she hooked her arm around Night Sorrow's neck. "How's the Medicine Valley?" Night Sorrow asked. "Of course it's good. Excluding you, the Medicine Valley still has the 3 sovereigns and a lot of stage 5 cultivators. It has the strength to become the #1 sect in the Eastern Profound Domain. In addition, the Medicine Valley has done a good job in expanding its medicinal pill resources. It has now reached the unbounded desolation realm. Of course this was arranged by Aunt Fei." Yang Lei said. "It's fine as long as the sect is doing well. How's your business?" Night Sorrow asked again. "It's all done. We even went to Chuyu's place to eat and drink a few times," Aoi said with a smile. "Then I'm relieved." Night Sorrow nodded. Then Night Sorrow went to see Tianyu. Afterward, the few of them drank tea, chatted, and had dinner together. Yang Lei smiled at Night Sorrow and Aoi, then went to cultivate with Sikong Chuyu. 13th junior brother, how did the 2 of them become partners? Aoi's face was flushed. "It's nothing. They just want to give us more time alone." Night Sorrow held Aoi's hand and led her to the pavilion where Aoi lived. Night Sorrow was especially gentle when he was with Aoi. Among the 3 women, Aoi was the weakest, and Night Sorrow cared about her the most. 13th junior brother, 6th senior sister will try her best to adapt, but she can't do it now. Why don't you go and find them? Aoi said with an apologetic look. 6th senior sister, don't be like this. 9th senior sister and Chuyu can't do it either. They bully me together, Night Sorrow said with a smile. The 2 of them are so embarrassing. Aoi buried her head in Night Sorrow's chest. Night Sorrow also smiled. They were a family, so there was nothing to hide. Aoi might have felt it too, but she wasn't sure. "It's nothing. We are a family." Night Sorrow patted Aoi's back. "So they are like this. No wonder I can't do it. But there are some things that 6th senior sister needs to think about. Although junior brother is the one benefiting, we can't be too embarrassed." Aoi said after thinking for a while. 6th senior sister, I am actually very happy with this kind of life. I don't always think about this when I am with you. Night Sorrow said. 6th senior sister understands, but we can't always let you be like this. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's rest and lie in 13th junior brother's arms. Aoi moved her body to make herself more comfortable. After resting for a night, while Night Sorrow was practicing his spear art, Yang Lei teased Aoi for a while. "You 2 are not embarrassed. You 2 are together and I am alone." Aoi looked at Yang Lei and Sikong Chuyu and said unhappily, "Then we will be together in the future. I am just worried that 6th senior sister can't accept it." Yang Lei said. Night Sorrow couldn't stay any longer because it was all about women. He went to the lake and started practicing his spear art. It was a chaotic world now. Yishang was anxious to increase his strength. Strength was the foundation of everything. He had absorbed 2 desolation stones. Whether it was the desolation's hand or the myriad Tao Tome spear technique, their power had increased greatly. It was not just a little but a great improvement. Firstly, the myriad Tao Tome had leveled up. The energy in Night Sorrow's body had become much stronger. Secondly, the quality had increased. The 2 desolate stones made Night Sorrow's myriad Tao Tome's energy attack stronger. Chapter 750. Genius 1 second. Remember Love Go divided by Xiao? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Haotian City had not appeared for 10,000 years. No one knew what the situation was like. If there was an opportunity, then the first person to enter would definitely benefit. Baidu search love go female sign xiao shuat www.atux. After cultivating for a while, Night Sorrow entered the spacetime pagoda to recover. However, he did not talk to Yinshi. When facing her, Night Sorrow felt a little awkward. After cultivating for a day, Night Sorrow returned to his residence. After eating dinner, he greeted the three girls. He had to continue refining the desolate stone. Sikong Chiyu, Yanglei and Aoi nodded. They knew that Night Sorrow's accompanying them had already delayed his cultivation. In addition, improving his cultivation was also a big matter. It was hard to say what kind of opponents he would face in the future. If he lost because the gap was not large, then it might be because of his slacking today. Seeing Night Sorrow come in, Yinshi was stunned. Didn't you cultivate during the day? You still want to cultivate at night? Night Sorrow took out a desolate stone and nodded. I want to strengthen my attribute. What about you? When can you return to the Saint Realm? If you can return to the Saint Realm, then I will bring you out to explore. It will be more confident. Where do you plan to go? Yinshi asked curiously. For example, if there is a chance to enter Haotian City, or we can enter the Supreme River space. The last time I entered, I couldn't fight because my strength was too low. I didn't dare to explore carefully. That was an ancient battlefield from 10,000 years ago. It's not right that there are no remnants. Night Sorrow thought for a while and said, Didn't you say that we can't enter the Supreme River space? Yinshi frowned and asked. Others can't enter but I can. My Nihility Protective Chi cover can suppress any attribute below the Supreme Attribute. Night Sorrow said. That's too abnormal. No wonder. In the history of cultivators, there has never been a Supreme Attribute. Even high-level attributes are extremely rare. Excluding the high-level attributes brought by innate talents, those who have high-level attributes themselves are very rare. Baidu search love gong xiao shua www.atux.com, Yinshi said. How many saints are there with high-level attributes? Night Sorrow asked. How many? I don't know about Long Xianxing, but the Golden Phoenix is a high-level attribute. As for the others, including the arrogant xianhuan, they are only at the peak of ordinary attributes. Yinshi said. She had a deep grudge against xianhuan and scolded her the moment she mentioned xianhuan. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, But there are some cultivators with advanced attributes. There are also some supremacies with advanced attributes. It's very difficult to have a high-grade attribute, and it's even more difficult to upgrade a normal attribute to a high-grade one. Not to mention entering the Saint Realm with a high-grade attribute. That's as difficult as ascending to the heavens. How can one master a high-grade attribute's rule power? Since he couldn't find any source stones, what about Saint Crystals? How could a cultivator without a high-grade attribute cultivate to the Sage Realm obtain a high-grade attribute Saint Crystal? As for the special places where the rule power can be displayed, it's very rare, not to mention the places where the high-grade rule power can be displayed. It's going to be very difficult for you in the future. Yinshi looked at Night Sorrow and said, I already said that I have the Nihility Fate Pearl. Why are you worrying about me? I'm the one asking you now. Night Sorrow glared at Yinshi and said, I still need to refine it. I still need some time. It's hard to say how much time I'll need. Yinshi muttered. Don't meddle in my business. Work hard on your cultivation. Don't drag me out and get destroyed by others. Night Sorrow said snappily. Seeing that Night Sorrow's tone wasn't good, Yinshi didn't say anything. She was a little afraid of Night Sorrow in her heart because she couldn't bear the torture from her soul. Work hard on your cultivation. If you need any resources, just tell me. Seeing that Yinshi was obedient, Night Sorrow said and began to meditate to refine the desolate stone. SX Genuine Edition W/9X. Seeing that Night Sorrow had begun to cultivate, Yinshi didn't say anything. In fact, she still wanted Night Sorrow's essence blood. However, Night Sorrow didn't want it. After refining another desolate stone, Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. He couldn't absorb the energy from the desolate stone to cultivate anymore. His myriad Tao treasured tome was strengthened by his elemental power. The number of books had also increased to the peak of level 1 spirit refinement realm. Make a pot of tea. Night Sorrow said to Yinshi. Yinshi got up from the futon and went to make tea. Okay, I'll go to a small town later. You go and buy what you need. Night Sorrow said to Yinshi, who was making tea. Yinshi nodded. She had always had high standards for her life. The tea she was drinking now was of the highest quality. After drinking the tea, Night Sorrow left the space-time pagoda. He knew that xianxia needed his essence blood. It wasn't that he didn't want it, but he felt that it wasn't suitable. Within the space-time pagoda, xianxia's eyes were filled with disappointment. She knew very well what was going on. Night Sorrow wouldn't want to have anything to do with her if he could control himself. After leaving the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow ate breakfast with the girls. Then he went to the lakeside to cultivate. The girls also followed Night Sorrow. They had been cultivating hard for a while. Now they also wanted to relax. Seeing Night Sorrow cultivate the spatial split, the girls were shocked. They had seen this before. After cultivating for a while, he returned to the wooden boat. After greeting the girls, Night Sorrow entered the space-time pagoda to recover. Seeing Night Sorrow meditating, xianxia's face was filled with admiration. Night Sorrow was too persistent and hardworking. After recovering, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate the spatial split. The girls also began to cultivate their sword techniques. They all wanted to cultivate their intent realm. In the evening, after eating dinner, Night Sorrow looked at the three girls. Cultivate well. I plan to go to the Night Moon City for a walk. You don't need us to accompany you? Yang asked. No need. I'm just going out for a breath of fresh air. I'll come back later to rest. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Then Night Sorrow took the teleportation array and left. He wanted to go to the Night Moon Dynasty city to take a look. He also wanted to buy some things for xianxia. Night Sorrow looked around the Night Moon City. Then he went to Wuyo City and Wuamo City. Then he teleported to a city that the Night Moon had just taken back. Put on a veil and disguise yourself. I'll let you out later. Night Sorrow communicated with xianxia. Then Night Sorrow went to a secluded corner and Night Sorrow let xianxia out. Go buy the things you need. Remember, don't go too far from me. Otherwise, I'll treat it as you running away. You'll be embarrassed. Night Sorrow said to xianxia, whose hair was wrapped in a veil and her face was still covered. Can't you just walk a few steps behind me? How do I know how far you can sense me? Xianxia was a little depressed. If Night Sorrow didn't follow her, she didn't dare to walk around. She didn't know how far Night Sorrow's sensing range was. Okay, go. Night Sorrow waved his hand at xianxia. Yishang was speechless as he watched xianxia buy things. It was as if she was moving things. Silks, brocade quilts, ancient wooden tea tables. Xianxia moved them all into her storage ring. Chapter 751. Genius 1 second. Remember Love Go divided by Xiao? We provide you with interesting novels to read. When there was no one around, Night Sorrow kept xianxia, who did not resist, into the time and space pagoda. Then he returned to his residence in the city in the sky. Baidu search AI Go female sign Xiao say www.ichuxs. When Night Sorrow returned, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei and Aoi were sipping tea while looking at the night sky on the observation deck of the residence. You women really have good taste in life. After sitting down, Night Sorrow poured himself a cup of tea and said, Hee. Don't you want your women to have good taste? Could it be that you will be satisfied if we become haggard women? Yang Lei looked at Night Sorrow and said, No, that's not what I meant. However, even if you are haggard women, you are still the women in my heart. Isn't that so? Night Sorrow said with a smile. You sound happy to hear that. Ninth senior sister is just joking. We know what kind of person you are. Sikong Chuyu said after pouring water into Night Sorrow's empty teacup. After chatting for a while, everyone went to cultivate. As for the matters between men and women, everyone was a cultivator and they could restrain themselves. The matters between men and women were also for the sake of emotional exchanges. Night Sorrow also entered the secret cultivation room and began his cultivation. In his current state of cultivation, Night Sorrow was fully focused on cultivating his innate bloodline power and soul power. Because Night Sorrow had been cultivating these two types of power very well, his foundation was not unstable at all. As for his true chi in the myriad Tao text, one was at the peak of the second level of the venerable realm while the other was at the peak of the first level of the spirit refinement realm. Both of them were obtained quickly and required time to stabilize. After cultivating for a night, Night Sorrow went to the courtyard to cultivate his spear intent realm early in the morning. After eating breakfast, Aoi said, I won't be watching you cultivate. I'm going to break through to the fourth level of the void inquiry stage. At the same time, Kong Chuyu and Yang Lei also had the same intention. Night Sorrow nodded and went to the lakeside to cultivate. Every day Tianyu would crawl by the side of the lake and sleep. When he slept, he would cultivate. Baidu search AI Go female sign Xiao say www.ichuxs. Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and began to cultivate the spatial split. At the same time, he used the violent energy within the spatial turbulence to stabilize his cultivation. When he entered the space-time pagoda to recover, Night Sorrow was stunned for a moment. This was because the space on the 60th floor had been decorated like a boudoir by xianxia. There was a large pink bed, a purple curtain, and a set of antique furniture. There was also a tea table and a hollow wooden stool. Your quality of life has improved exponentially, Night Sorrow said as he pulled over a wooden stool and sat down. It's not easy to live. Why don't you treat yourself better? xianxia said. You're right. When I cultivate in the future, I'll feel more comfortable when I recover, Night Sorrow said with a nod. xianxia was very understanding and poured some tea for Night Sorrow. Quickly recover to the Saint Realm. Otherwise, you won't be one of the top cultivators, Night Sorrow said as he took a sip of tea. I'm really not in a hurry. If I improve my physical fitness and chi and blood energy, then speed will be my strength. I'll have a great advantage in battle, xianxia said. Every time we talk, this problem is always involved. Don't you have any other way? To be honest, I don't want to do that. I have 3 fiancés. I don't want to let them down, Night Sorrow said with a sigh. If you don't say it and I don't say it, who will know? xianxia said. There are some things that others don't know. It's enough for me to know. I can't get past myself, Night Sorrow said. It's not the first time. What's the point of avoiding this now? I won't use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate with you. Since I've been subdued by you, I'll use my own ability to make my life better. It's enough for you to treat them better in the future, xianxia said. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. There was indeed no point in avoiding it now. xianxia was right. He should treat them better in the future. Night Sorrow could really let go of himself when he was with xianxia. No matter what, xianxia would cooperate. She was very cooperative, not accompanied by choking sounds. Night Sorrow wanted to stop, but she wouldn't let him. Night Sorrow could only continue fighting. After 2 hours, xianxia got what she wanted. Why did you do that? Night Sorrow said with a sigh after tidying himself up. What's wrong? That's normal. Otherwise, as a former 7-star saint, why would I do that? xianxia shook her head. She understood that Night Sorrow had no experience in this area. All right. I don't understand. I won't care if you cry or not in the future. Night Sorrow said and went to meditate. xianxia glanced at Night Sorrow and went to meditate. She wanted to refine the resources she had just obtained to strengthen herself. Night Sorrow tore the space again and again. He used and tempered his true chi and energy in the turbulent space and returned to the spacetime pagoda to recover. After half a month, Night Sorrow decided to break through. His true chi cultivation was already very solid. He didn't want to suppress the myriad Tao treasured tome anymore. He would break through when it was time. During this period of time, xianxia's progress was also quite big. Night Sorrow could feel that xianxia's body had become stronger. Her chi and blood were also different from before. Night Sorrow's cultivation advanced to level 3 honor realm on the wooden boat. Then he directly broke through the myriad Tao treasured tomes cultivation to level 2 spirit refinement realm. After Night Sorrow had dinner with the girls, he entered the secret cultivation room again and entered the spacetime pagoda in a flash. Genuine first appearance, your cultivation has improved again. xianxia was surprised to see Night Sorrow. If you can improve, why can't I? What's your cultivation level now? Night Sorrow took the tea from xianxia and asked. My cultivation is still stabilizing, but I'm not far from entering the sage realm. xianxia said. What about the cultivation of your body? What exactly are you cultivating? Night Sorrow looked at xianxia and asked. I have 2 ultimate attributes and I've cultivated the ultimate body. However, this still can't support me to use the wind elemental escape. Only the fusion of the 2 ultimate bodies, which is the feng shui body, can do that. I'm now cultivating to prepare for the fusion of the 2 ultimate bodies. xianxia explained to Night Sorrow. So that's the situation. I understand. Night Sorrow nodded. But you still have to help me. There's still a long way to go. xianxia said. I don't understand. I'm the one who subdued you. But now, am I the one who's exploiting you? Or are you the one who's exploiting me? Night Sorrow said speechlessly. What are you talking about? Even if you've subdued me, you can't pretend to be obedient after taking advantage of me. Don't you feel good? What position do you want? What request did I not satisfy? xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said. I admit that, but it's all to help you cultivate. Night Sorrow looked at xianxia and said. Chapter 752. A genius remembers love in 1 second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. When you haven't lost something, you don't know how precious it is to have it. Baidu search AI go female sign xiao say www.ichuxs. I mean she used to be a 7-star saint and stood at the top of the cultivators. After her cultivation was greatly damaged, she lost all hope. After being subdued by night sorrow, she didn't even want to live anymore. But then she saw hope for the next step, so she let go of everything. Besides, after being subdued, she had already lost everything in front of night sorrow. She did not mind losing anything in front of night sorrow. Alright. As I said before, as long as you are well and obedient, I will let you live a better life. Night sorrow looked at Shi and said. After night sorrow finished speaking, he continued to meditate and stabilize his cultivation. In his current state of cultivation, night sorrow did not have to worry about increasing his cultivation. The difficulty was that he needed to spend a long time to stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for 2 days, Night Sorrow left the secret cultivation room and returned to his mansion. In the manor, Sikong Chuyu and the other two were practicing their sword techniques. They had all advanced in their cultivation and were focusing on stabilizing their cultivation. Seeing Night Sorrow come out, the 3 women stopped their cultivation. They brewed tea and chatted with Night Sorrow. Not bad. However, we can't rush the step of stabilizing our cultivation. We don't lack resources. Increasing our cultivation isn't difficult. The difficult part is stabilizing, Night Sorrow said. After staying with the girls for a while, Night Sorrow went to see Papa Gu, who was cultivating. After that, he went to the lakeside and started cultivating the spatial crack. After advancing, Night Sorrow still needed to stabilize his cultivation. Once his cultivation stabilized, he could continue to use the dragon spirit pills and desolate stones to increase his cultivation. When Night Sorrow came back at night, he saw Lin Yuandao. Master K, what's the situation in Clear Sky City? Night Sorrow asked. There's no way to get close. There are more and more spatial soul-devouring beasts, and the spatial turbulence is filled with those things. Lin Yuandao sighed and shook his head. Then let's continue cultivating, Yi Shang said. Night Sorrow's plan was to wait until his cultivation reached the middle stage of the Venerable Realm. Then he would go to the spatial turbulence and see if the Void Protective Air Shield could stop the spatial Soul Eater beast. In addition, she disappeared without a trace, as if she had disappeared, Lin Yuandao said. Maybe she went to find a place to cultivate. She shouldn't be a threat to anyone anymore, Night Sorrow said. Let's hope so. I'm just here to have a look. Your cultivation base is rising too quickly. Let me give you a word of advice. Haste makes waste. A solid foundation is important. However, there is no problem with the solidity of your true energy. After talking about Night Sorrow, Lin Yuandao smiled again. The main thing was that Night Sorrow showed no signs of having a shaky foundation. Then, after drinking a pot of tea, Lin Yuandao left. He had come to see how the young master of Qinji Tower was cultivating. Normally, Night Sorrow's cultivation should be guided by Lin Yuandao. However, Night Sorrow didn't need any guidance from him. Then Night Sorrow asked the girls about Wu Ling concubine's situation. Aunt Fei occasionally comes out for a cup of tea. The rest of the time she is cultivating in the attic, Yang Lei said. Well, I don't know how the clansmen are doing in the Sea of Night Moon. When I have time, I will go to the island and ask Sixth Uncle. Night Sorrow said. He was eager to see his parents as soon as possible. However, when the Night Clan would come out, perhaps only xianxia would know. After cultivating for another 2 days, Night Sorrow decided to go into seclusion. This made him feel a little embarrassed. However, the 3 girls sensed that Night Sorrow had something to say. Night Sorrow, do you have something to say? Yang Lei asked. Yes, I am going into seclusion. This time it might take a little longer, Night Sorrow said. Go. You can't delay your cultivation. If you are tired, come out and rest. Yang Lei looked at Night Sorrow and said. She was happy and a little bitter. She was happy because Night Sorrow really cared about their feelings. She was bitter because Night Sorrow was going to cultivate alone again. I will. The 3 of you too. Don't be too tired because my heart will ache. You are all my favorite women, Night Sorrow said to the 3 girls. Aoi and Sikong Chuyu smiled in response to Night Sorrow. Then, Night Sorrow entered the secret cultivation room and the space-time pagoda. He took out the dragon spirit pill and the desolate stone. He communicated with Shao Kong to help him cultivate his bloodline power and soul power. Night Sorrow took the dragon spirit pill and started cultivating with the desolate stone in his hand. Looking at Night Sorrow cultivating, she curled her lips and continued cultivating. She still wanted to get some benefits from Night Sorrow. However, Night Sorrow did not think about that. With the help of the dragon spirit pill and the desolate stone, Night Sorrow's cultivation increased. Time slipped away and 8 days passed. Night Sorrow took out another desolate stone and continued to increase his cultivation. After absorbing the 2 desolate stones, Night Sorrow's dragon spirit pill was not far from being refined. He did not continue to refine the desolate stone. After nearly 20 days, Night Sorrow ended his cultivation. His true chi cultivation had reached the peak of level 3 martial saint realm. His myriad Dao treasured tome had also improved greatly. Although it was not at the peak of level 2 spirit refinement realm, it was not far from it. As Night Sorrow punched, the scenery in front of his fist changed. Time passed and the speed increased by a lot. In other words, the quality of the power of desolates in Night Sorrow's myriad Dao treasured tome had improved by a lot. Foremost and newest dollar chapter end section? Night Sorrow roared. He was very happy with such an effect. You've improved a lot. She said as she brewed tea. It's still okay. What about you? Night Sorrow asked after sitting down. If you don't give it to me, how can I improve? I can only stabilize my true chi cultivation. She glanced at Night Sorrow and said, You can't take it just because you want it, right? Night Sorrow drank a mouthful of water and said, Can't you have it at any time? You won't lose anything. She looked at Night Sorrow and said. Her thoughts had changed imperceptibly. She felt that there was something wrong with her when Night Sorrow did not touch her. I can't win against you in an argument. Night Sorrow could not reprimand her. After drinking a pot of tea, Night Sorrow left the space-time treasure pagoda and went to the courtyard of the mansion. When he did not see the 3 women in the mansion, Night Sorrow went to the martial arts practice field. In the martial arts practice field, Night Sorrow saw xianxia and the other 2 cultivating with the others. When they saw Night Sorrow, the 3 of them ended their cultivation and came to Night Sorrow's side to brew tea on the stone table. 13 Where did you go? You still smell good. Aoi, who sat beside Night Sorrow, said as she sniffed. How is that possible? I just came out from the secret cultivation room. However, there were some flowers on the way. Night Sorrow's heart trembled. Because he was close to Shi, it might be that Shi's scent had contaminated his body. It's weird. It's different from the usual fragrance of flowers. It's more like a woman's scent. After saying that, Aoi stood up to brew tea. Night Sorrow let out a sigh of relief. He planned to teach Shi a lesson later. Wasn't she tricking him? Chapter 753. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. What's this fragrance? If I didn't know that you've been cultivating, I would definitely ask you where you've been fooling around. Love go little say W. Chusikong Chuyu came to Night Sorrow's side and sniffed. Don't be like this. I'm going to drink tea. Night Sorrow said with a smile. He was now convinced that Aoi, Yang Lei, and Sikong Chuyu were all very smart. One mistake and there would be problems. $? Go first. After drinking tea, Night Sorrow found a rattan and said, Are you guys coming? This time, no one said anything and no one stood up. What's going on? Night Sorrow was a little puzzled. We want to improve ourselves but we're not fools. Don't you guys know your current situation? Nan Liu said. Sigh. Then I won't play with you guys anymore. Night Sorrow waved the rattan and threw it away. In the next few days, Night Sorrow accompanied the 3 girls and cultivated in the martial arts field every day. Night Sorrow cultivated his spear art and intent realm. At the same time he consolidated his cultivation base. When they had dinner together again, Sikong Chuyu spoke. She wanted Night Sorrow to do his own things. Although it was important for everyone to be together, he couldn't delay his business. Yang Lei and Aoi also had the same idea. They didn't want to delay Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow decided to go to the island in the Realm Sea tomorrow. He also told the 3 girls that he wasn't sure when he would return. After cultivating for a night, he greeted the Sikong Chuyu trio and Papa Gu. Then he bowed towards the pavilion where Wu Lingfei was cultivating and went to the lakeside to check on Xianyu. Night Sorrow asked Xianyu to cultivate here in peace. However, Xianyu wanted to follow Night Sorrow, so Night Sorrow didn't refuse. He took the transformed Xianyu and left Sky City through the teleportation circle. After teleporting to Haohai City, Night Sorrow took out a flying ship and headed for the island in the Realm Sea with Xianyu. It was very extravagant for the 2 of them to sit on a flying ship, but Night Sorrow was rich enough that he didn't mind spending a few spirit stones. He and Xianyu drank some wine and arrived at the island in the Realm Sea in a very comfortable manner. Night Sorrow first went to see xianxia. When he saw Night Sorrow's cultivation, xianxia was shocked. Then his face lit up with joy. Your cultivation improved quickly and it's solid. That's great, xianxia said to Night Sorrow. It's not bad. Sixth uncle, what's the situation with the family? Night Sorrow asked. They'll come out soon. It won't be long. Also, your father has entered the half-step sage realm. The family wants us to stabilize, said xianxia. My father has cultivated to the half-step sage realm. That's great. Night Sorrow was very excited to hear that his father had entered the half-step sage realm. We don't need to worry. The Tianfeng dynasty has been destroyed and Xuanhuan is dead. Night Moon dynasty won't have much pressure to fight after returning, said xianxia. Sixth uncle, send a spy to find out the cultivation level of the 7-star saint from the 7-star dynasty, said Night Sorrow to xianxia. I've checked. This is the most difficult part. Night Moon can't handle it alone. He's a 5-star saint. If we can't handle it, we can only ask Tianji Tower for help, said xianxia. No need. I'll handle this. Don't ask for help. That's all. I'll go cultivate, said Night Sorrow to xianxia. You can handle it? xianxia asked in surprise. Love go little say Chu, I don't need to ask for help or tell the family. I don't need to rush out either. It's best to stabilize. Night Sorrow nodded. Then Night Sorrow left the place where xianxia and the others were cultivating. Inshi, you handle this matter. The 7-star saint is a 5-star saint. Hurry up and recover, then kill him for me. Night Sorrow communicated with Inshi. His soul power was in Inshi's mind, so Inshi naturally knew what he meant. Just now, Night Sorrow also let Inshi listen to his conversation with xianxia, so Inshi also knew what was going on. Alright. That's why you don't ask for help. But I want essence energy. I want to cultivate. When I become a saint again, I want to cultivate the wind essence body. At this time, Inshi didn't care so much and directly shouted her request in the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow shook his head helplessly. He didn't understand what was going on. Then Night Sorrow went to see Long Xianxing and drank a jar of wine with him. Only then did he go to Tianji Tower's camp. While chatting with Xialanjun and the others, Night Sorrow heard Inshi cursing in the space-time pagoda. He then closed his soul power, not letting Inshi listen to his conversation with Xialanjun and the others. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow went to the place where he originally camped and set up a tent. Then he flashed into the space-time pagoda. I've always kept my soul power and my soul power open so that you can feel the situation outside. I'm afraid that you will feel suffocated here, but you will shout and scream. If you do this again, I won't let you know the situation outside anymore. Night Sorrow looked at Inshi and said, Don't. This is my fault. I saw that Xialanjun was too angry, so I couldn't suppress my anger. Seeing that Night Sorrow was angry, Inshi became obedient. Be careful in the future. I can accommodate you for some things, but there is a bottom line. You can't force me to use my soul power to restrain you. I know. Inshi nodded. She really didn't want to bear the torture of her soul now. That 7-star saint is a 5-star saint. Can you kill him? Or a sneak attack? Night Sorrow asked. I can if I recover to the level of an intermediate saint. However, the prerequisite is that I have to cultivate the Wind Yuan body and the Wind Yuan escape. Inshi whispered. Isn't the Wind Yuan escape an innate skill for escaping? Night Sorrow frowned. The Wind Yuan escape is an innate skill for escaping, but it also has an auxiliary movement technique, the Wind Yuan flash. It used to be useless because I couldn't use it to fight. However, if I cultivate the Wind Yuan body, there won't be any drawbacks. The Wind Yuan flash won't be a technique that hurts the body. Inshi said. In the end, you still want essence. Here you go. Night Sorrow pushed Inshi onto the big pink bed. After fighting for a while, Night Sorrow took a deep breath. I'll give you what you want. However, when I want to kill the 7-star saint, if you can't do it, it's meaningless for me to keep you alive. I won't kill you. I'll just throw you into the first level of the space-time pagoda and let you perish on your own. I'll work hard to cultivate. It's my fault today. I won't bare my fangs and brandish my claws in the future. Inshi pulled her skirt over her body and said. She knew that Night Sorrow was still angry at her for cursing Xialanjun today. During this period of time, I admit that I've treated you well. I didn't abuse you or bully you. However, this isn't the right for you to be unreasonable with me. Night Sorrow said. Inshi nodded and didn't say anything. She could tell that Night Sorrow was really angry. Chapter 754. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/little? I'll provide you with interesting novels to read. If you can keep giving me essence energy half a month. Half a month will do, Inshi said. Alright, just shout if you need it during this time. Night Sorrow took out the Sun Dragon wine and drank a mouthful before leaving the space-time pagoda. He walked out of the tent and flew towards the realm sea. He wanted to see the situation of the spatial soul-devouring beasts in the spatial turbulence. About 20 miles into the realm sea, Night Sorrow arrived at the edge of the spatial storm. At this time, Night Sorrow saw the spatial soul-devouring beast shuttling through the spatial turbulence. Chapter LQ, Section M of the W version. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow decided to give it a try. He wanted to see if his protective barrier could block the attacks of the spatial soul-devouring beast. After taking a deep breath, Night Sorrow activated the protective barrier of a peak 3rd grade venerable and entered the spatial turbulence. He then stopped. At this time, the 2 spatial soul-devouring beasts charged towards Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stood there and allowed the spatial soul-devouring beasts to crash into his protective barrier. As the spatial soul-devouring beasts crashed, Night Sorrow's protective barrier caved in. However, it did not break. The 2 spatial soul-devouring beasts continued to crash into it. The spatial attribute is still incomparable to the sovereign attribute, Night Sorrow muttered softly and felt a little more at ease. After enduring for a while and confirming that the protective barrier could withstand the spatial soul-devouring beasts, Night Sorrow wanted to see if his body, which had been greatly enhanced by the power of desolates, could withstand the attacks of the spatial soul-devouring beasts. After removing the protective barrier, Night Sorrow circulated the power of the myriad Tao tome to protect himself. Whoosh, whoosh. The spatial soul-devouring beasts tore apart Night Sorrow's robes and crashed into his body. They wanted to drill into Night Sorrow's body and enter the divine sea. But in reality, the soul-devouring beast was only able to break through Night Sorrow's robes. It was unable to break through the defense of Night Sorrow's body. Night Sorrow waved his hand and punched out with the power of the myriad Tao tome. A spatial soul-devouring beast was sent flying by Night Sorrow's punch. Night Sorrow's fist, imbued with the power of desolates, sent the spatial soul-eating beast flying into the realm sea. Soon after, Night Sorrow held the reincarnation spear and compressed the true chi of nothingness. Then he attacked with the spear. When Night Sorrow's true energy converged into a single point, the soul-eater beast couldn't hold on any longer. Its body was obliterated, and the 2 halves of its body fell into the realm sea. After that, Night Sorrow began to cultivate in the spatial turbulence of the realm sea and began to fight the spatial soul-devouring beast. After increasing his cultivation, Night Sorrow's nothingness attribute was much more condensed than before. His protective barrier could withstand the attacks of the soul-devouring beast, so he had nothing to worry about. This was the importance of increasing one's cultivation. The difference between a level 2 venerable and a level 3 venerable was only 1 level, but their strength was completely different. Night Sorrow also tried to change the way he attacked with the spear. When he attacked with the 7-star glorious moon spear, the energy was used on a single point. If he wanted to break through the enemy, he would use the extreme melting. After fighting for 2 hours, Night Sorrow returned to the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda and drank a mouthful of Dragon Sun wine. You're almost done refining just now, right? Let's continue. Night Sorrow beckoned Xianxia. It's only been 2 hours. Can you do it? Although I'm anxious, I can't hurt your body, Xianxia said. It doesn't matter. I'm indeed anxious. After our Night Moon Dynasty returns, we'll counterattack. The 7-star dynasty has a 5-star saint. This is an unavoidable obstacle, Night Sorrow said. I'll do my best, Xianxia said. Love go little say W. Chew, come on. My body is strong and I've also drunk some Dragon Sun wine. I should be able to do it. Night Sorrow nodded at Xianxia. Then Xianxia took off her skirt and went to the big pink bed. Night Sorrow went to the side of the big pink bed and saw Xianxia pull one of her legs to the side of the bed and attack directly. This time Night Sorrow wanted to deal with it, but in fact he still fought for a long time. After that, Night Sorrow drank 2 more mouthfuls of Dragon Sun wine and meditated to recover. Not only could the Dragon Sun wine replenish yang qi, but it also had the effect of shaking the wind. It was also a treasure wine that strengthened the body. After recovering for 2 hours, Night Sorrow entered the spatial turbulence of the realm sea and fought with the spatial soul-eater beast. At this time Night Sorrow was cultivating in all aspects. Movement technique, spear art, true chi, myriad Tao tome energy, soul energy, and true chi were almost depleted. Night Sorrow used his innate energy to protect himself. Using his innate energy, the spatial attribute, to protect himself, Night Sorrow could only withstand the attacks of the spatial turbulence. He couldn't withstand the attacks of the spatial soul-eater beast because their attributes were of the same origin. However, Night Sorrow wasn't worried. Even if the spatial soul-eater beast broke through the protective energy, he still had the myriad Tao tome's energy to protect himself. After exhausting most of his true chi, Night Sorrow returned to the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. How's your refining? Night Sorrow looked at xianxia and asked. I finished refining, but you can't do this. Wait a little longer and we'll do it again. I can't hurt your body, xianxia said. Okay, then continue cultivating. We'll talk about it later. Night Sorrow drank the Sun Dragon wine again and started cultivating. He was really going all out now. Not only did he want to cultivate well, but he also wanted to support xianxia. Xianxia could tell that Night Sorrow had been cultivating like crazy ever since he heard that the Night Moon dynasty was coming back and that there was a saint in the Seven Stars dynasty. After resting, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate in the spatial turbulence of the realm sea. All-round cultivation and improvement were what Night Sorrow wanted the most. Who knew how many soul-eater beasts had been killed by Night Sorrow, but there were simply too many of them. Night Sorrow just had to travel back and forth in one area to fight, so he didn't have to worry about not having a target to fight. As the battle went on, Night Sorrow's spear art became sharper and sharper. Every spear attack was compressed to the extreme. In other words, he displayed the dominance of the Void attribute as the supreme attribute. Night Sorrow returned to the Pagoda of Time when he was almost exhausted. After drinking a mouthful of Sun Dragon wine, Night Sorrow waved at xianxia. You have to pay attention to yourself, xianxia said as she took off her skirt. It's okay. I want to relax now. Night Sorrow shook his head at xianxia. After giving xianxia his essence chi, Night Sorrow began to meditate and recover. Xianxia also began to cultivate. With the help of Night Sorrow's essence chi, xianxia's wind origin body had improved greatly. Night Sorrow continued to cultivate. Fortunately, xianxia had a bottom line. She controlled the pace of some things and only needed Night Sorrow once or twice a day. Half a month later, Yishang's cultivation was extremely solid, and xianxia's cultivation had reached the level of entering the Saint Realm again. Chapter 755. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? I will provide you with wonderful novels to read. Okay, let's go somewhere else. I hope you can succeed, Night Sorrow said to xianxia. If I can cultivate the body of wind, I can also help you with your cultivation. Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said. You should enter the Sage Realm first. Night Sorrow said. Then Night Sorrow left the island and went to a mountain in the Haohai City area. Night Sorrow felt that it was very quiet here and no one would disturb him. So he let xianxia out. Night Sorrow thought for a while and gave xianxia half a bottle of spiritual fluid of life and spiritual fluid of origin. He also told her how to use them. More? New, fastest on $X. You really care about people. Maybe this is the reason why your 3 fiancés are so loyal to you. Xianxia took the spiritual fluid of life and spiritual fluid of origin and said. Night Sorrow didn't say anything and just smiled. Xianxia sat down cross-legged and started to advance. In the beginning it was very stable, but as her aura climbed, 2 types of energy appeared on her body. Her body would sometimes be filled with green energy, and sometimes it would be filled with blue energy. Yi Sorrow knew that this was a transition between 2 extreme forms of energy. Love Gone Little Say W. 4 hours later xianxia's aura changed. The power of rules appeared on her body. At the same time the energy on her body also changed dramatically. There was blue and green and blue. Then it integrated into xianxia's body. Yishang felt that xianxia had changed. Her silver hair, which was originally very bright, had a luster flowing through it like water ripples. At this time, a tribulation cloud appeared in the sky and rolled above xianxia's head. Xianxia swung her hands in front of her chest and abdomen. Then she stood up and took out a long sword with her right hand. When xianxia was ready, the thunder and lightning struck down. Night Sorrow found that the lightning was much stronger than the lightning that appeared when he was advancing. They were not on the same level, but he could understand. After all, one was a venerable level thunder tribulation, and the other was a saint level thunder tribulation. They were not on the same level at all. While Night Sorrow was pondering, the thunder tribulation descended. At this moment, Night Sorrow witnessed the speed of xianxia, who had cultivated the wind essence body. When she dodged and retreated, Night Sorrow could barely see her figure clearly. He could only see the sword chi slashing towards the thunder tribulation. The lightning was strong, but xianxia's speed was fast. When she was dodging, she quickly attacked with her sword. With dozens of rapid strikes, the lightning was neutralized. Love Gone Little Seiko. After the lightning disappeared, the tribulation clouds in the sky also disappeared. It was just a bolt of tribulation lightning. However, after the thunder tribulation, there was no colorful light. Only a ball of light fell on xianxia's body. Then xianxia began to meditate and cultivate. Night Sorrow took out a jar of longyang wine, poured a bowl and drank slowly. During this period of time he had been suppressed by xianxia. If it was an ordinary person he would not be able to withstand it. However, Night Sorrow also found a benefit. After drinking the longyang wine, the excess yang qi was suppressed by xianxia, and the remaining energy was used to strengthen his body. 2 hours later xianxia stood up. It's done. My current speed is not far from when I was at my peak. When my cultivation recovers a little, even if I meet Xialanjun, I won't be defeated. Xianxia is still good to me. Don't be hostile to her in the future, okay? What you have done is in the past. Look at the future. Let go of your hatred and you will live a better life. Night Sorrow said. Okay. I won't talk about this in the future. I also hope that you won't embarrass me in front of her. This is the last thing I want to accept. Consider it my request. Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said, if there is a need to meet, I will say that you are my friend. I will say that after I was kidnapped by you, we became friends. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said. Xianxia did not speak. She only bowed to Night Sorrow. There are some things that I can and will hide. However, I will not lie to my Aunt Faye and my fiancé. I will not lie to the people around me. However, I will tell them about the situation between us. I believe that they will not look down on you. Night Sorrow said. Xianxia nodded. She also knew that this was Night Sorrow's bottom line. Okay, the rest is for you to slowly recover. I will continue to improve my cultivation. Night Sorrow said. At this time, Night Sorrow's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. However, he did not want to break through now. He was now a peak level 3 venerable. If he broke through again he would become a mid-level venerable. Therefore he planned to consolidate his cultivation at this stage. In addition he wanted to let the myriad Tao treasured tome catch up and reach the same level. Do you still want to go to the realm sea to cultivate? Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, yes. Actually, you can also go there to consolidate your cultivation. If you are afraid of being seen by the saints of Tianji Tower, we can go to another island. Xianxia nodded. She also felt that this was a good idea. After Night Sorrow went back to bid farewell to Xialanjun and the others, he went to the island where Xianxia used to live. Night Sorrow and Xianxia entered the spatial turbulence in the realm sea to cultivate every day. Xianxia cultivated the wind origin body, which was equivalent to combining the elements of wind and water. Her attack power was strong. Coupled with the power of rules, she could kill the spatial soul-eater beast. However, the spatial storm did not train her at all. It only helped her consolidate her cultivation. This situation also made Night Sorrow understand why no saints entered the spatial turbulence in the realm sea to cultivate. Xianxia's situation was special. She was not training her cultivation but consolidating it. The effect was still very obvious. Night Sorrow also planned to level up the myriad Tao treasured tome. Only by leveling up could he use the Desolate Stone to continue improving his attributes. He could not use the Desolate Stone now because his cultivation had reached a critical point. Before he was about to break through, Night Sorrow looked at Xianxia. I know what you are going to say. Don't stay too far away from you. Otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Actually, I also want to go into seclusion. Let's enter the space-time pagoda together. Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said. Since we are both going into seclusion, let's enter the space-time pagoda. At least it will be safe. Night Sorrow nodded and then entered the space-time pagoda with Xianxia. After entering the space-time pagoda, Xianxia made a pot of tea. After drinking the tea, Night Sorrow went to the spiritual jade stone stool to cultivate. Xianxia also sat on the futon to cultivate. With the dragon spirit pill that Night Sorrow had given her, her cultivation had skyrocketed. Now she was charging towards becoming a 2-star saint. In the past, Xianxia had been able to cultivate to the level of a 7-star saint. She was not a brainless person. She knew that Yi Shang's luck was shocking and that he was also her nemesis. At the same time he could also help her grow. However, there was one thing that she could not go against Yi Shang's wishes. Xianxia also realized that Night Sorrow did not force her to do anything. Therefore she felt at ease. Xianxia also knew that she had borrowed Night Sorrow's luck. It was as if the problem of her body that had not been solved for many years had been solved easily. Although the solution was a little unorthodox. Chapter 756. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Night Sorrow had a good foundation in the myriad Tao tome, so it was not difficult for him to cultivate and level up. During cultivation, Night Sorrow's body would provide him with energy to strengthen his soul. Then he would use his soul power and absorbed energy to strengthen his body and the energy in his body. As long as Night Sorrow did not suppress his level up, he could level up while cultivating the myriad Dao tome. He had been suppressing it because he did not want his foundation to be unstable. As time passed, Night Sorrow's cultivation of the myriad Dao tome increased sharply. With a roar in his body, the energy in the myriad Dao tome surged and broke through the bottleneck of the second level of the myriad Dao tome and entered the third level of the myriad Dao tome. Then, it began to circulate naturally. Success. Night Sorrow's breakthrough ended perfectly. The energy in his body and the strength of his body increased again. Night Sorrow did not get up and continued to stabilize his cultivation. While stabilizing his cultivation, Night Sorrow also started cultivating his soul power and bloodline talent. As for the cultivation of his chi, Night Sorrow did not intend to level up. He wanted to suppress his cultivation and continue to stabilize it. Night Sorrow used 3 days to stabilize his cultivation. When Night Sorrow opened his eyes and stood up, she was making tea and tasting it. Let's go out and cultivate. After drinking a cup of tea and nodding to Shi, Night Sorrow wrapped Shi with his soul power and left the space-time treasure pagoda. Then they entered the space turbulence in the realm sea to fight with the space turbulence storm and the space soul-eating beast. Watching Night Sorrow cultivate, Shi also entered the space turbulence. She had just become a 2-star saint and needed to stabilize her cultivation. Actual combat was the best way to do so. After cultivating for 4 hours, Night Sorrow returned to the edge of the island. He took out the Longyang wine. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow changed to ordinary wine and drank 2 mouthfuls. At this moment Shi also came back. The blood chi in your body has increased again. Your body refining technique is indeed powerful. I already said that it doesn't suit you. If it suits you, you can have it. Night Sorrow glanced at Shi and said, I'm just lamenting. I don't want it. Shi explained. She didn't want Night Sorrow to have any misunderstandings because it wouldn't do her any good. In addition, she also understood that if it was suitable for her, Night Sorrow would give it to her because she was under Night Sorrow's control. After recovering for a while, Night Sorrow continued to cultivate in the realms sea. At this time, the soul-devouring beast in the chaotic streams of space had less and less influence on him. Some time ago, when Night Sorrow entered the chaotic streams of space, the soul-devouring beast broke through his protective shield and crashed into him. He still felt a lot of pain. Now he only felt a little numb. This was the effect of the myriad Dao tome strengthening his body and increasing his energy. Every time Night Sorrow entered the realm sea, he only wore battle pants because even if he wore an outer robe, it couldn't withstand the soul-devouring beast's damage. In addition, the soul-devouring beast only attacked Night Sorrow's chest and neck. As for Shi, she didn't want the soul-devouring beast to touch her body like a loach. However, she could rely on her dodging and attacking speed to avoid the soul-devouring beast's attacks. At the same time, she could send the soul-devouring beast flying and kill it. After cultivating for another 6 or 7 days, Night Sorrow decided to go back to the original camping area because he was afraid that if something happened, no one would be able to find him. Night Sorrow, if your protective energy is stronger, you can wrap me up and I'll take you. We'll have a chance to enter Clear Sky City. Shi looked at Clear Sky City in the realm sea and said, That's a good idea, but we don't know if the spatial storm only envelopes the periphery of Clear Sky City or if the inside of Clear Sky City is also filled with chaotic streams of space. If the inside of Clear Sky City has chaotic streams of space like the outside or even more violent, then it's useless for us to enter. We can't even investigate. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and shook his head at Shi. Then he enveloped Shi with his soul power and brought her back to the pagoda of time and space. Then they returned to the place where xianxia and the others were staying. Night Sorrow and Shi had different thoughts. Shi didn't care about the outside world and only pursued self-improvement. However, Night Sorrow was different. He had worries and things to deal with. This was the difference between interpersonal relationships and social relationships. Then Night Sorrow went to greet Xianxia and the others. When Xianxia saw Night Sorrow, she criticized Night Sorrow. She was worried that Night Sorrow would be intercepted by Shi and the enemy forces if he ran around like this. The Extreme Heaven Tower had destroyed the Tianfeng dynasty, the Silver Demon Villa, and even the Western Green sect had been crippled. However, there were too many factions that were hostile to the Night Moon dynasty. Not to mention others, just the few great dynasties wanted to strangle Yishang to death. The few dynasties could still afford to lose a high-level venerable. It was also possible that there would be more assassinations. In addition, there were many people in the 9 realms and 18 states who were hostile to the Empyrean Terminus Tower. They were unwilling to see the Empyrean Terminus Tower grow stronger in the future. It was normal for them to target Yishang. Night Sorrow accepted Xianxuan's criticism with a smile. He knew that whoever wanted to kill him or assassinate him would be unlucky. The other party wouldn't directly send a saint to kill him, right? With a super fighter like xianxia, wouldn't anyone below the saint realm die? After chatting with xianhuan for a while, Night Sorrow went to visit Long Xianxing. This body of yours is very tyrannical. I reckon that even the fifth Emperor Li Feng of the ancient times was at this level. Long Xianxing glanced at Yi Shang and said. Night Sorrow had heard of the name Li Feng. He was an expert in the ancient times. His body was his weapon and his strength was incomparable. Then Long Xianxing asked Night Sorrow if he still needed the Xian Turtle Crystal and the Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal. If he needed, he could help Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow thanked Long Xianxing for his kindness. He had enough resources now. The Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal that Long Xianxing gave him last time could definitely support him to cultivate the myriad Dao Tome to the Saint Realm, which was the Golden Body Realm. However, Night Sorrow also asked if there were any resources that were of a higher level than the Blood Spirit Turtle Crystal. Long Xianxing thought for a while. There are some. For example, the blood essence of high-level monsters or the blood essence condensed into blood crystals after death. They all have the effect of strengthening the body. In the Ice Plain Sea there is a monster called the Blood Spirit Jiao. In the Desolate Sea, there is a monster called the Four-Clawed Silver Dragon. They can produce high-level energy to strengthen the body. Thank you, Senior. Night Sorrow bowed to Long Xianxing. That's nothing. I walk the path of inaction. That's why I don't kill. Your path is different from mine. To go against the heavens and fight for supremacy, that is to kill your way out. Go ahead and do it. Long Xianxing said. Night Sorrow then bade farewell to Long Xianxing. Night Sorrow had a lot of life spirit liquid, but he didn't want to use it unless it was a critical moment. He just kept it as a backup. LT+Y version $1 post. Chapter 757. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Where? Night Sorrow asked. Baidu search AI go female sign xiao say www.ichuxs.com. There are 4-clawed silver dragons in the wilderness behind the Silver Demon Villa. They should be a clan, Xianxia said. Long Xianxing said that we don't need to go on the same path, but I don't want to kill for no reason. We'll see when the time comes. Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow took Xianxia back to Sky City. He could still cultivate in the Realm Sea, but he didn't want Xikong Chuyu, Yang Lei and Aoi to worry. He was also afraid that Wu Lingfei wouldn't be able to see him. After returning to Sky City, Night Sorrow went to the training field first. At the practice ground, Night Sorrow saw the members of the God-slaying team working hard to cultivate. At this moment, the God-slaying squad already had 4 supremacies. Apart from Night Sorrow, Xuanhuan and Ling Long, Liang Yu had also reached the supremacy realm. Baidu search AI go female sign xiao say www.ichuxs.com. Other than that, there were also a large number of late Void Inquiry Stage team members. Yang Lei and Xikong Chuyu had both taken the Extreme Void Pill some time ago. After stabilizing their cultivation bases, they had already advanced to the 8th level of the Void Inquiry Stage. Even though Xueling, Ho Jian, Lei Bao, Nan Liyue and Lei Zheng were slightly weaker, they were still at the 7th Void Inquiry Stage. The others were also at the Mid-Void Inquiry Stage. Only a few of them were at the Early Void Inquiry Stage. As for those who had yet to attain the Void Inquiry Stage, only Ma Shizhuang, Tang Tian and Chu Ning had managed to do so. This was not because of their innate talent and hard work. Instead, it was because they had only cultivated for a short period of time. Aoi had also advanced to the 4th level of the Void Inquiry Stage. With the help of the Great Void Pill, she easily reached the Mid-Void Inquiry Stage after stabilizing her cultivation base at the 3rd level of the Void Inquiry Stage. After chatting with everyone for a while, Night Sorrow returned to his residence. He had some matters to discuss with Wu Lingfei. Forever free of S fees equals look at a small D say asterisk G. While Night Sorrow was drinking tea in his mansion, Wu Lingfei came and sat across from Night Sorrow. You've made good progress but you still need to rest. Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. It's the same for Auntie Fei. Don't work too hard. Right now the Eastern Shen region is as stable as Mount Tai. With Senior Long Xianxing around we will be able to withstand any storm. Night Sorrow said. Wu Lingfei smiled at Night Sorrow. It had been many years since someone cared for her and she enjoyed it. Yishang then asked if there was a way to inform him immediately if he was away for a while and something happened here. Following this, Wu Ling concubine told Night Sorrow that he could just make a communication crystal. As long as his spirit power entered a liquid state he would be able to do this. After explaining, Wu Lingfei looked at Yishang. You're going out? Where are you going? Anifei, I plan to go to the Supreme River space again. Last time, I didn't investigate it carefully enough. As an ancient battlefield, that place shouldn't be simple. Love gone little sake Kunite Sorrow said. But it's still very dangerous for you to go there. Wu Lingfei thought for a while and said, Anifei, I actually have a hunch that the Netherworld world will declare war on the 9 regions sooner or later. Since there aren't many intelligent Netherworld beasts in the Supreme River space, I'll try to go there again before they completely occupy it and investigate it. There were many saints in the ancient times. If one of them died and left a sacred treasure there, it would be best if we can get it. Night Sorrow told her his thoughts. Wu Lingfei thought for a while and nodded. You have the time and space pagoda. In terms of safety, unless you encounter a saint, there shouldn't be a problem. Go there. Don't fight. Just look for opportunities. Even though she was worried, she did not stop him. In the past, Night Sorrow, who was at the Void Inquiry stage, managed to come back alive from the Supreme River space. Now, Night Sorrow was at the peak of the 3rd level of the Venerable Realm. His body cultivation had also improved greatly. His strength was also on a completely different level from before. As for whether he could enter the Supreme River space, Wu Lingfei did not need to ask because Night Sorrow's attribute allowed him to ignore the suppression of other spaces. Next, under Wu Lingfei's guidance, Night Sorrow made 3 messaging crystals. He gave one to Wu Lingfei, one to Yang Lei and the others, and the last one to Yiling Lan. Looking at Night Sorrow, Wu Lingfei felt a little reluctant. You can use the Golden Phoenix flexible armor as you wish. It won't affect me at all. Don't worry about me, Auntie Fei. I'll rest for 2 days before leaving. You don't have to cultivate during these 2 days. You can also relax for 2 days. Night Sorrow said with a smile. In the next 2 days, Night Sorrow had a good rest. After knowing Night Sorrow's decision, the Sikong Chuyu trio did not object. They just reminded Night Sorrow to be careful. Night Sorrow also gave the messaging crystal to Aoi. Among the 3 women, Aoi was the calmest. After resting for 2 days, it was time to leave. Night Sorrow gave the last messaging crystal to Yiling Lan. Night Sorrow left Little Kong to cultivate by the lake. This time he had to endure the pressure, and it was inconvenient for Xianyu, who had entered the Sovereign Realm. Although Xianyu wanted to follow Night Sorrow, he still listened to Night Sorrow's decision. Then the group sent Night Sorrow to the teleportation array. Night Sorrow, be careful when you enter. If there's a problem with the seal, fix it. Wu Lingfei said. She did not want the nether beast to rush out and cause trouble. Then Night Sorrow sat on the teleportation array and left the city in the sky. This Golden Phoenix really cares about you. She said to Night Sorrow. Of course, Auntie Fei has always treated me like family. Night Sorrow and she communicated. With the teleportation array, Night Sorrow did not need to spend much effort on his journey. He went straight to the Medicine Valley. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow did not want the people of Medicine Valley to worry about him. He flew directly to the cliff where the space of Supreme River was. Then, Night Sorrow sent Shi out of the Pagoda of Time and Space. He knew that it was the same whether Shi was in the Pagoda of Time and Space because the laws of the world and space would detect it. Just like when he went to the Void Dimension, no one was allowed to bring flying mounts above the 4th level. This is the Medicine Valley, where the entrance to Supreme River is, Night Sorrow said. Golden Phoenix has a great temperament. With Dongxuan's origin in her body, her future achievements will surpass Xialanjun and the others. Shi's mind was still filled with Wu Lingfei, so she did not pay much attention to Night Sorrow's words. The laws of this space are very complete. I don't know if it will work if I bring you in, Night Sorrow said. Wu Lingfei had tested its strength the last time and knew that the spatial passage of Supreme River was very suppressive. This was also the reason why she did not follow Night Sorrow into the Death Dimension when Night Sorrow brought her into the Death Dimension. Now, it was also because Night Sorrow's cultivation base had improved tremendously that he dared to bring Shi along. Then both of them began to fly downwards. Night Sorrow and Shi were extremely fast and soon reached the bottom of the cliff. Come here. I hope my protective shield can melt the seal and let the energy enter directly. If the seal is broken, I will have to repair it, Night Sorrow said to Shi. Shi nodded and stood beside Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow took a deep breath and propped up his protective shield before walking towards the spatial passage. The seal's energy blocked Night Sorrow's advance. However, Night Sorrow then performed a spatial rend and cut open the seal's energy without destroying the seal's foundation. He then charged forward and brought Shi through the seal to the entrance of the spatial passage. Night Moon's spatial rend is indeed powerful, Shi, who was holding Night Sorrow's left arm, said emotionally. Chapter 758. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Okay, my speed is not something an ordinary saint can contend with. If we can't handle it, we'll run first. There's no need to retreat, she said. What saint? Nothing much, and you're planning to run. Night Sorrow looked at Shi with disdain. So what if I'm a saint? If I can't win, I'll run. Am I waiting for death? Saints are also cultivators. Their battle analysis and handling are no different from ordinary cultivators. Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said, Come closer to me. This way my protective shield can be compressed and more condensed, Night Sorrow said to Shi. Shi did not stand on ceremony. She directly leaned in front of Night Sorrow and hugged Night Sorrow's waist with both hands. Night Sorrow compressed his protective shield and then cut forward. As Night Sorrow's protective shield was cut, his body began to move forward. The energy in the spatial passage pressed down on Night Sorrow, causing his protective shield to shake a little. Shi also focused and was ready to attack at any time. Firstly, it was to fight outside. Secondly, if Night Sorrow could not withstand it, she would use the power of law to protect the two of them. Even if they entered the spatial turbulence, they would not be crushed by the pressure in the spatial passage. In 2 breaths of time, Night Sorrow rushed out of the spatial passage. Once out of the spatial passage, Night Sorrow began to cut left and right to dodge. There are no saint-level nether beasts here. Protect yourself and let me kill them. Shi checked and said to Night Sorrow. Then Night Sorrow withdrew his protective shield and let Shi out. Shi could also rush out, but breaking through Night Sorrow's protective shield would consume a lot of Night Sorrow's vital energy. Shi rushed out and began to kill the nether beast. Without saint-level nether beasts, there was no pressure on her. It was a complete one-sided slaughter. Night Sorrow also joined the battle. Nether beasts that were not at the late stage of the venerable realm were no threat to him. The battle ended in 15 minutes. Almost none of the nether beasts managed to escape. They were all killed by Shi and Night Sorrow. Collect the crystal cores. These are the pinnacle of the death attribute, nether energy crystal cores. They're quite valuable. Love gone little sake, Night Sorrow said to Shi, and the two of them began to collect the crystal nuclei. After cleaning up the battlefield, Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and threw it to Shi. Then he opened another jar for himself. Shi only drank a little and then put it away. Night Sorrow said after drinking a few mouthfuls of wine, Last time I was only scouting in secret. My main goal was to find the spatial passageway. This time the two of us will search in detail. It's impossible that no experts have fallen in the primordial battlefield. If we're lucky, we might be able to find something. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, This depends on luck and opportunity. If there's a holy treasure longsword, can you give it to me? Night Sorrow asked, What's the level of the weapon you're using now? Is it not a holy treasure? Shi's explanation gave Night Sorrow some information. The holy treasures of the 9 zones world were extremely rare now. Even if there were, they had to be nurtured by themselves. Most of the saints also use spirit weapons. However, because of the protection of the power of rules, the spirit weapons would not break. xianxuan's combat strength was strong because her weapon was a half-step holy treasure. It was between a supreme-grade spirit weapon and a holy treasure. Night Sorrow understood that it was indeed very difficult for a holy treasure to appear. It was very difficult to nurture it. It had a lot to do with the attribute, compatibility, and so on. After resting for a while, Night Sorrow and Shi began to move forward. This time, it was different from the last time Night Sorrow had come in alone. Last time, Night Sorrow had avoided the nether beasts. This time he specifically chased after the nether beasts and killed them. Let's see how lucky I am this time. If I can get a saint-tier weapon that is compatible with your attributes, I can give it to you. But if it's not compatible with your attributes, don't even think about it. I still have 3 fiancées and my Aunt Faye, Yishan said. Okay, you can arrange it as you see fit, Shi said. Then the two continued to move forward, killing as they moved forward. Night Sorrow felt that the 9 zones world and the nether world would fight sooner or later. The supreme river space and the nether world had the same attribute. Therefore, killing the nether beast here was equivalent to reducing the strength of the nether world in advance. Love gone little say She agreed with Night Sorrow's opinion. Even if she did not agree, she had to agree with Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow's opinion also made Shi understand that Night Sorrow was a big-hearted person. He did not have any selfish thoughts. This was because most people who came in here wanted to benefit themselves. When the two were tired, they would rest in the space-time pagoda. Seeing that Night Sorrow had to work hard to cultivate for a while every time he recovered, Shi was very impressed. She knew that at Night Sorrow's age, it was very rare to have such a temperament. After another round of cultivation, Yi Shang stood up and stretched his arms. The bones in his body emitted crackling sounds. You don't have to work so hard, right? You have no opponents in the Nine Zones world, she said to Night Sorrow as she looked at him. This time we will stop for a few days. I will refine the desolate stone. Night Sorrow planned to cultivate his attributes to saturation. When the power of desolates was saturated, he could use the power of desolates to strengthen his body again. He believed that at that time, his body-tempering cultivation would far surpass Huang Wudao's desolate sword physique. She asked when she saw Yi Shang take out a desolate stone that was larger and of higher quality than the one she had given him. Night Sorrow sighed and told her about the Golden Growler's corpse. He also told her about the Golden Growler's indestructible soul. If the body is indestructible, the soul is indestructible. This is beyond the limit of lifespan. For a corpse from 10,000 years ago to have such a situation, the situation is indeed complicated. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yinshi's expression changed. This matter was beyond her imagination. Ignoring the astonished Yinshi, Night Sorrow began to meditate and cultivate. He knew that there were some things that Yinshi needed time to digest. After sorting out his emotions, he looked at Night Sorrow who was cultivating. Yinshi had eaten the dragon spirit pill and was also cultivating. She was also anxious to recover her strength because this was a chaotic world. YC.Q original chapter *on W. In this time, Night Sorrow went into seclusion for half a month and only managed to refine half of the desolate stone. Night Sorrow did not continue refining because the power of desolates in the desolate stone was very rich. Furthermore, the desolate stone contained pure energy. If he continued to refine it, his foundation would be unstable. Night Sorrow stopped cultivating. Yinshi, who was meditating, also stood up and went to make tea. You've been cultivating for half a month. You're too persistent. Yinshi said. Our foundation is a bit unstable. Let's continue fighting later and settle down, Night Sorrow said. Whether our foundation is stable or not is very important. Shall we continue? Yinshi asked. She also needed to use battles to increase her cultivation. Yinshi was also under pressure because when Night Moon returned from the dynasty, she had to defeat the 7-star saint. The 7-star saint was a 5-star saint, so she had to work hard to recover. Chapter 759. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. You're right. There's one more thing. I've successfully condensed the wind essence body and it contains a lot of yang energy. It can also help you with your cultivation, Yinshi said. Okay, let's talk about this later. Night Sorrow's soul power wrapped around Yinshi and they left the time-space pagoda. Now, the two of them were not worried about encountering opponents that they could not contend against. Night Sorrow had a holy treasure in his hand and Yinshi had the cultivation of a saint. Her speed was also extremely fast. In Yinshi's words, even if she could not win, she could still run away. She did not harm herself by using the wind essence escape technique. Without any worries, Night Sorrow and Yinshi had nothing to be afraid of. They just charged forward. Night Sorrow used the two weapons alternately. The battle intensity was not high. He used the space-splitting spear to increase his compatibility. When the battle was intense, he used the reincarnation spear. Seeing Night Sorrow doing this, Yinshi, who was puzzled, asked Night Sorrow why he did this. She thought about what Night Sorrow told her about cultivating the soul doppelganger. You've already reached this step. You're indeed powerful. I've thought about cultivating the soul doppelganger in the past, but I don't have a top-notch medium. It's too late to cultivate it now. Love go little sake, Yinshi said. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and did not mention that he still had the Phantom Dao stone. This was because Yinshi was not suitable to cultivate the soul doppelganger now. He could not lose his strength. The 7-star saint was still waiting to be dealt with. During the day they would advance and kill. At night the two of them would kill ordinary small demonic beasts and drink some wine. Then they would enter the time-space pagoda to rest and cultivate. After a few days, Night Sorrow collected a lot of alchemy materials and ores. However, he still did not find any traces of an expert's battle. Night Sorrow was not discouraged. He believed that he would gain something. It was impossible that there were no remnants in an ancient battlefield. Yinshi admired Night Sorrow's steadiness, because even if he didn't discover it, Night Sorrow was not anxious at all. After setting up camp once more, Night Sorrow intended to charge into the 4th rank of the Exalt realm. He'd been forcefully suppressing it during this period of time, and he felt that there weren't any problems with the condensation and control of his true energy. After taking a look at Yinshi, Night Sorrow greeted Shao Kong and told Xianxia that he was going into seclusion. Although he was in the same level as Xianxia in the spatial treasure pagoda, Night Sorrow was not worried about his safety. First of all, Xianxia would not dare to attack him. As long as the soul energy he left in the silver she divine pearl exploded, Xianxia would die. Other than this factor, Night Sorrow still had Shao Kong as insurance. As long as Xianxia made any strange movements, Shao Kong would bring her to another level. Within the spacetime treasure pagoda, Shao Kong was the master. After spending a day and a night, Night Sorrow raised his true energy to the 4th rank of the Exalt realm. His true energy had become much more vigorous. This was a small leap from the beginner Exalt realm to the intermediate Exalt realm. Night Sorrow opened his eyes and took a look at Xianxia. He then continued to meditate and stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation for 6 hours, Night Sorrow stood up and said, "Make a pot of tea." You're probably the only one in the 9 regions and 18 prefectures to use a saint as a maid. Xianxia muttered and began to make tea. You're also the only one in the 9 regions and 18 prefectures to kidnap a venerable. By the way, why didn't you make a move when I was in seclusion? Night Sorrow asked. Was there a need? If you died, I wouldn't be able to live either, right? I believe that you would have a backup plan. Moreover, you're pretty good to me. Xianxia said. Night Sorrow smiled and sat down at the tea table to drink tea. He was very satisfied with Xianxia's attitude. When Xianxia spoke, her soul didn't fluctuate at all. It was obvious that she was telling the truth. After drinking tea, Night Sorrow relaxed his emotions. Xianxia did the same. She had been working hard to cultivate during this period. Night Sorrow looked at Xianxia and thought for a moment. How many of the 20 dragon spirit pills do you have left? If you need them, I'll give them to you. I've recovered 1 rank, so 3 or 4 pills won't be enough. I still have 7. Xianxia took out the bottle of dragon spirit pills. You're quite sincere. However, since your foundation is stable, you can eat as much as you want. I can still afford to raise you. Here's another 10. Night Sorrow took out another 10 dragon spirit pills. You're really rich. I feel like I'm a prodigal when I eat like this, Xianxia said. Night Sorrow shook his head and didn't say anything. In fact, it was a waste for Xianxia to eat like this. However, Night Sorrow still had a lot of dragon spirit pills and materials, so he wasn't worried that the god-slaying squad wouldn't have enough. Do you need me to help you with your cultivation? Xianxia asked. No need. I won't take advantage of a woman. Besides, you don't have to be so nice to me, right? You should hate me, Night Sorrow said. Would you believe me if I said that I've thought it through? The destruction of my cultivation is my own fault. I can't blame anyone else. As for being nice to you, it's actually just flattery. I'm trying my best to live a better life, said Xianxia. She wasn't just saying this to Yishang, but also to herself. I don't need any flattery. As long as you're well, I won't do anything to you. It's not easy to live, Night Sorrow said with some emotion. Then the two left the spacetime pagoda and continued forward. After 2 days, Night Sorrow saw some changes in the terrain. It wasn't naturally formed. There was a deep trench in the ground. This is a sword mark. Night Sorrow looked down and said. Xianxia also looked down. It can't be? It contains wind attribute energy. To be able to fight here and leave such a deep sword mark, it must be an expert. Let's continue to investigate, Night Sorrow said. It was true that they found sword marks and traces of battle, but it was hard to determine where the battlefield was. Because experts were extremely fast, they could travel hundreds of miles in 2 flashes. If one was chasing and the other was escaping, it was hard to say how far the distance would be. I hope it's a sage with a sage treasure. Let's take a closer look. Xianxia was also interested. Then the two of them investigated nearby, following the traces of battle. They killed any nether beast that blocked their way. Then the two of them saw traces of sword chi. After investigating, they found that they were of the water attribute. Forever Ogio watch small 8 for free, said. Hee Night Sorrow, as long as one of them leaves behind a sacred weapon, then my weapon will be secured, Xianxia said excitedly. Selfish. Can't you think of leaving behind better treasures such as cultivation methods? Night Sorrow glared at Xianxia. For me, a sacred level sword is the most useful, but you're right, Xianxia said. Cultivation methods are the best. My current cultivation method can only be cultivated to the saint realm. Cultivation methods mean inheritance, which can increase the strength of the 9 zones. Night Sorrow said. Although Long Xianxing said that he would look for a cultivation technique for him, there might not be any suitable one for him. Besides, if he could obtain an additional cultivation technique, it would bring benefits to many people. She stopped talking because she felt that her perspective on the overall situation was not as good as Night Sorrow's. If she continued talking, it would make her seem inferior. According to the direction of the sword chi and the attack, the two of them continued to fumble their way forward. Then the two of them saw a severed mountain range. Chapter 760. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. This is an expert. At the very least, I couldn't do this when I was a 7-star saint, she said in shock as she looked at the broken mountain range. 10,000 years ago, the 9 regions world was at its peak. There were many experts, and it was normal for there to be peak saints, Night Sorrow said as they continued to move forward. As they moved forward, Night Sorrow saw traces of an intense battle. At that time, there should be sword chi everywhere and gullies extending in all directions. The two of them checked carefully. Then she called out to Night Sorrow because she saw a corpse on one side of the mountain range. It was half a corpse with 2 legs and half a waist. This is not important. Let's go over there and take a look. Night Sorrow flew toward the other side of the mountain range gap, and she followed beside Night Sorrow. Then Night Sorrow saw an unexpected scene. It was a corpse without a lower body, and it was holding a long sword in its hand to keep its body from falling. This is a senior cultivator of the wind attribute, Night Sorrow said as he looked at the corpse. He also saw the storage ring on the corpse's left hand. Then Night Sorrow found something wrong. The half-corpse he saw at the beginning still had flesh and blood that had not decayed, but the half-corpse here had turned into bones. As if she knew what Night Sorrow was thinking, she said, "This senior must have been injured first, then cut in half at the waist. After losing all hope, he burned all his essence and blood to fight." It seems that his opponent did not have an easy time. Otherwise, his opponent would have taken away his storage ring and weapon. Even if they didn't perish together, both sides should have been injured, Night Sorrow said with some emotion. This was not the first time he had seen such a situation. The Dark Spirit Saint and Life Saintess had been like this too. When two saints fight, their strength is almost the same. If one fights with his life, the other will not have an easy time, she said. "Okay, take a look at the weapon and then we'll bury him," Night Sorrow said to she. Judging from the energy fluctuations, this is a saint-grade longsword. 10,000 years ago, there were many saint-grade experts, so many saint-grade weapons were passed down. Xianxia bowed to the corpse and took the sword from the corpse's hand. Holding the long sword, she waved it and a ray of sword light cut open the mountain rock beside her. Night Sorrow took the corpse's storage ring, then went to the other side of the mountain gap, wrapped it in energy and took half of the corpse back, then used the sky-piercing spear to dig a hole. "I don't know which side you belong to, but taking your Saint Crystal is a blasphemy, but it can benefit future generations." Night Sorrow stretched out his left hand and took out the Saint Crystal from the skull. Night Sorrow then buried the corpse in the pit. She studied the long sword. The long sword was called the Flowing Wind Sword, but she kept it in his storage ring. "Why not?" Night Sorrow asked. "It needs to be nourished. I can use it immediately, but it's not as powerful as my original long sword," she said. "Take the time to nourish it. When the time comes, give me your current long sword. I'll give it to someone." "My 6th senior sister has the wind attribute," Night Sorrow said. "Well, it won't take long. Half a month will do," she said. Then the two continued to explore the surrounding area, and the scope of their exploration became larger and larger. This was because it was normal for an injured saint to run 1,000 or even a few thousand miles. At noon on the 3rd day, the two found a special situation in another place. The environment was similar to when Night Sorrow saw the corpse of the Life Saintess in the death space. It was a lifelike corpse of a middle-aged woman with a blue scale on her forehead. The woman in the middle stood there and there was a pool under her feet. The pool was not filled with life spiritual liquid, but with clear water rich in spiritual energy and a small number of soul crystals. "Don't move." Night Sorrow stopped she. "What's wrong? Can't you see that she's holding a long sword and wearing a storage ring?" She looked at Night Sorrow and said, "I know. This woman's aura is very strange. She's not from the 9 zones world. Her corpse is so lifelike, so it's hard to say whether her soul will be destroyed. If we're not careful, she might be possessed." "I've seen such things before," Night Sorrow looked at she and said. "That makes sense. I'm not afraid of being possessed. You can hide in the pagoda of time and space," she said. "You don't have to worry about me. I'm afraid that your soul defense is low, and she will try to possess you. If she dares to possess me, she's asking for trouble." Night Sorrow looked at she and said, "Our Silver Devil clan has a soul defense secret technique. Last time we were hit hard by you, so we didn't have time to use the deity ocean defense. Now that we're prepared, we'll be fine, xianxia said. Seeing that xianxia was confident, Night Sorrow walked forward and punched the energy shield outside the pool. It was a kind of energy restriction. As the restriction was broken, the middle-aged woman opened her eyes. You're courting death for disturbing my cultivation. With a loud roar, the middle-aged woman's aura began to rise. Then, Night Sorrow could not see the middle-aged woman's cultivation level clearly. Xianxia held a long sword in her right hand and pulled Night Sorrow back with her left hand. Get lost. I'll pretend that nothing happened. The middle-aged woman looked at xianxia and Night Sorrow. I thought you were powerful. So you're only a level 8 supremacy. xianxia's body flashed and she charged toward the middle-aged woman in blue. At this time, the middle-aged woman also drew her sword and fought against xianxia. The middle-aged woman in blue's sword technique was very sharp. Her sword technique also contained the power of the rules. However, xianxia's attack was strong and fast. She suppressed the middle-aged woman in blue. If my cultivation level was still here, I'd kill a trashy saint like you in a moment. The middle-aged woman's body flashed and she was about to leave. Don't talk nonsense. Part of my cultivation level has been destroyed. What's the use of bragging? xianxia chased after her. Night Sorrow entered the pool and scooped up the few soul crystals. Then he chased after xianxia and the middle-aged woman in blue. At this time xianxia had the absolute upper hand. Because of xianxia's fast speed, the middle-aged woman in blue could not escape even if she wanted to. Night Sorrow did not get too close because he could not intervene in a battle of this level. Night Sorrow was very happy because the middle-aged woman in blue was still alive. All the resources were still there. As long as the middle-aged woman in blue was killed, Night Sorrow could go and count the gains. At this time, the middle-aged woman in blue was very angry. In her eyes, xianxia was trash. However, xianxia's speed made her helpless. She could not win the battle and she could not escape. The only U version S hashtag, the other J60 all FF is a pirated version. Night Sorrow followed from a distance. He stared at the middle-aged woman's long sword. He felt that the long sword was similar to the one xianxia had. It was probably a saint-level sword. Chapter 761. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Seeing that xianxia was sure to win, Night Sorrow took the wine jar and drank as he watched the battle and learned from it. A quarter of an hour later, xianxia performed her wind elemental flash and pierced through the head of the saintess in blue while she cursed. If I wasn't worried about your tricks, I would have killed you a long time ago. Why would I listen to your nonsense? xianxia's long sword vibrated and completely shattered the spirit sea of the saintess in blue. She then took out the holy crystal. Good. Well done. Let's stop here. Night Sorrow clapped his hands and said. xianxia smiled at Night Sorrow. She took the saintess in blue's long sword and storage ring and went to Night Sorrow's side. This girl is of the water attribute, but I can feel that she is not from the 9-domain world. She was severely injured back then, so she has been in a state of hibernation. Her cultivation has not recovered. Yishang still dug a hole and buried the body of the blue-clothed saintess. Then he took the spoils from xianxia. After Night Sorrow put away the holy crystal, he took the storage ring and the long sword and asked xianxia, is the long sword a saint-grade long sword? Love Gon Little said Chu, yes definitely. And the quality is better than mine. But you must have prepared it for your Aunt Fei. Besides, the wind attribute is more suitable for me. xianxia said. Night Sorrow nodded and then put away the long sword. Let's go into the space-time pagoda to count the loot. After speaking, Night Sorrow brought xianxia into the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow opened the holy woman's storage ring and found that she was very rich. She had 2 high-grade spirit weapons. One was of the water element, which Night Sorrow knew was for backup. The other was of the fire element. Other than the 2 spirit tool-level swords, there were also attribute crystals. There were at most a dozen water attribute crystals, a few wind attribute crystals, and a few other attribute crystals. The most valuable one was the Saint Spirit Stone. In this woman's storage ring, there were more than 20 Saint Spirit Stones and a few hundred extreme grade Spirit Stones. However, there were no upper grade Spirit Stones. Why aren't there any cultivation methods? Night Sorrow said somewhat gloomily. Cultivation techniques are all memorized in one's mind. Unless it's a real big shot or a cultivation technique that belongs to him or her, the average disciple of a sect wouldn't carry a cultivation technique book with him, xianxia said. Night Sorrow then opened the storage ring of the holy woman who was cut in half. There were extreme-grade spirit stones, some healing medicine, and some materials for refining weapons and elixir pills. It's not easy being a 9 regions holy woman. She's short on resources, but she could still fight with her opponent until both sides suffered, Night Sorrow said emotionally. I wonder where this outsider came from. He's really rich in resources, she said. It's not easy for you this time. I'll give you some. Take it yourself, Night Sorrow said as he pointed at the pile of extreme-grade spirit stones on the ground and the saint spirit stones on the table. You're really giving it to me? Without you I wouldn't be able to come in. Besides, what's mine is yours, she said as she shook her head. Take it. You need it too. It's good for you and me to increase your strength. Shin Song, Night Sorrow said. Then she took 4 saint spirit stones and 100 extreme-grade spirit stones. She then nodded at Night Sorrow. You're not greedy. Call me if you need anything. Night Sorrow nodded and sorted out the materials. Night Sorrow was very happy with this harvest. It was equivalent to solving some of his basic problems. The problem of Wu Lingfei's weapon was solved. Aoi and Sikong Chuyu also had spiritual weapons to use. The only thing missing was Yang Lei's weapon. Yang Lei was of the lightning attribute, so there were relatively few lightning attribute spiritual weapons. Why Zizzer, fast 3. 6-inch seeing Night Sorrow shake his head, she asked. Night Sorrow didn't hide anything and told her about Yang Lei's situation. Looking at Night Sorrow, she took out a long sword. I happen to have a spiritual weapon level lightning attribute sword. Give it to her. After you nourish your flowing wind sword, you can also take this weapon in my hand. Then the problem will be solved. No one will recognize your weapon and this lightning attribute weapon, right? Night Sorrow asked. She shook her head. Unless the weapon was very special, no one would be able to recognize it. Then Night Sorrow mentioned the problem of Shi's body fragrance. He told Shi not to use any spices in the future. This was simply cheating him. However, Shi's answer made Night Sorrow feel very helpless. She didn't use any spices. Her body fragrance was unique to the women of the Silver Devil clan. This situation made Night Sorrow feel very helpless. He felt that every time he came out of the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda, he had to take a shower first. Otherwise, Aoi, Yang Lei, and Sikong Chuyu would find out sooner or later. Seeing Night Sorrow's helpless expression, she smiled. She knew that Night Sorrow was troubled by her fragrance last time. Most of the time, Night Sorrow would open up the soul connection between him and Shi. Let's rest for a few days and then continue. I plan to consolidate my cultivation and nourish the flowing wind sword. Shi looked at Night Sorrow and said. In the past, she was domineering and others would listen to her orders. Now, everything was decided by Night Sorrow and she was already used to it. Night Sorrow nodded. He also planned to continue refining the other half of the Desolate Stone and continue strengthening the myriad Dao treasured books attribute power. In the past, Night Sorrow also obtained Desolate Stones. However, because they were stored for a long time and their quality was low, other than the power of Desolates, they didn't have much energy. However, he had recently obtained high-quality Desolate Stones that contain pure energy. While increasing his attribute power, it also increased his myriad Dao treasured books cultivation. Do you want to try and see if I can help you with your cultivation? She looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Woman, I don't need any help with my cultivation. I can't take it even if you say so. Night Sorrow glanced at Shi. After being stared at by Night Sorrow, Shi turned around and sat on the bed. Why don't we rest on the bed? Night Sorrow thought for a while and looked at Shi. In order to respect you, I didn't pry into your thoughts or your privacy. I always feel that you have an ulterior motive. It's not an ulterior motive. It's just that I still need your essence. Shi's voice was a little low. You're still not done? Haven't you mastered the Wind Yuan body? Hearing Shi's words, Night Sorrow was a little annoyed. Yes, I have. Didn't I just master it? It still needs to be stabilized. It's not perfect yet. Shi raised her head and looked at Night Sorrow. I don't want to scold you. If it was another man, he would have been played to death by you. Night Sorrow said angrily. You're wrong. The cultivation method of plucking has always been in my hands. If I was a perverted person, I would have been able to cultivate it long ago and surpass that woman. However, I didn't do that. I'm not a person without a bottom line. As for the wrong path, it was because of the competition with her. It was my desire to excel that led me to a dead end. Shi said. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that Shi was telling the truth. If Shi was a person without a bottom line, Xialanjun might not have been able to suppress her. Chapter 762. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/little? Xuanhuan provides you with wonderful novels to read. Well, the preparation is a small matter. Let me tell you first. I will use the energy of the wind body to enter your body and help you nourish your body. However, you can't control or cut off my energy. If you do that, you will be setting me up. Xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said, "If the energy of your wind body enters my body and explodes, won't I be in trouble?" Night Sorrow muttered, "What's in it for me? I am helping you nourish the toughness of your body and the energy in your body. Your body and energy are strong but not tough enough," Xianxia said. Then Xianxia told Night Sorrow that there was no need for Night Sorrow to do anything. He just needed to circulate the energy in his body naturally. After speaking, Xianxia got on the big bed and took off her skirt. At this time, Night Sorrow couldn't care less. He also took off his robe and got on the big bed. They hadn't done this for a long time. The two of them fought fiercely. After 2 hours, Night Sorrow finally finished. At this time, Xianxia flipped onto Night Sorrow's body and sat cross-legged on his waist. She nodded at Night Sorrow and started to cultivate. Night Sorrow looked at Xianxia, who was cultivating with her eyes closed. Then he started to circulate the energy in his body. At this time, a cool energy entered Night Sorrow's body from Xianxia's waist. It circulated with the energy of Night Sorrow's myriad Tao treasured book. Night Sorrow knew that this was the energy of Xianxia's wind body. He knew that Xianxia wouldn't harm him now, so he let this energy circulate in his body with the energy of his myriad Tao treasured book. At first he didn't feel anything. Then Night Sorrow felt that his body and the myriad Tao tome's energy had indeed changed under the nourishment of Silver Dusk's energy. It had become more resilient as it surged. The intensity of the energy was still the same as before. However, the previous flaws, bubbles, and varying intensities in the energy had slowly disappeared. In other words, Night Sorrow's myriad Tao tome's energy had become much more complete. An hour later, Xianxia withdrew the energy that had entered Night Sorrow's body. She turned over and left Night Sorrow's body, then went to the side to wash herself. Night Sorrow also stood up and put on his robe. At the same time he nodded at Xianxia. This was because the cultivation effect this time was very strong. It was equivalent to nourishing his myriad Tao tome at a very high level. After tidying herself up, Xianxia told Night Sorrow that she had also gained a lot. While helping Night Sorrow, she had also taken away the flawed energy of Night Sorrow's myriad Tao treasured book. After she had refined it, it had also increased the intensity of her wind body's energy. This time, Night Sorrow didn't say anything about the benefits that Xianxia had gained. This was because he had gained more benefits. Baidu search AI go xiao www.ix. Then the two of them began to cultivate. Xianxia had to refine the flawed energy of the myriad Tao treasured book. At the same time she was nourishing the flowing wind sword. When the flowing wind sword was completely nourished, her strength would increase by a large margin. Night Sorrow held the desolate stone and cultivated. At the same time he let Shao Kong transfer the energy of his soul power and bloodline power to him. Looking at Night Sorrow being enveloped by dense energy, Xianxia curled her lips. She knew that this was the difference in treatment. 2% forever free to look at *small c. Say 7. Night Sorrow was the person recognized by the Spacetime Treasure Pagoda. In other words, he was the owner. The Spacetime Treasure Pagoda would of course fully support Night Sorrow's cultivation. She could only cultivate naturally here. Fully refining the desolate stone, Night Sorrow strengthened his soul power and bloodline power at the same time. His soul power increased naturally. However, the quantity of his bloodline power couldn't be increased. He could only continue to strengthen the quality. Half a month had passed. Night Sorrow's myriad Tao treasured book's attribute power had increased by a lot. It was close to saturation. At the same time his cultivation had also increased by a lot. Looking at the white desolate stone in his hand, Night Sorrow stood up and stretched his waist. Seeing that Night Sorrow had finished cultivating, Xianxia also stood up. At the same time she took out her old spiritual artifact longsword and passed it to Night Sorrow. "I have already retrieved the soul imprint. You can give it to your fiancé to use. It seems that you have made great progress in this half a month," Night Sorrow said as he kept the longsword. Xianxia nodded to Night Sorrow and told him about her situation. Some time ago her cultivation had been greatly damaged. Xianxia started to cultivate again. The problems that she had not sorted out in the past had also been sorted out. With the Fengyuan body as the foundation, her cultivation had not recovered, but she had a good foundation. Looking at Night Sorrow, Xianxia hesitated for a moment. She bit her lips and said, "Let's cultivate again. Your refining body has just increased, so it is a little unstable. There are more flaws. I can help you nourish them. At the same time, the power of the flaws in your body will be greatly beneficial to me after I refine it. Night Sorrow nodded and started the second real cultivation with xianxia. This time the two of them cultivated for more than 4 hours. Although it did not solve the problem of Night Sorrow's newly increased cultivation, Night Sorrow's myriad Tao treasured books cultivation was much more stable. Night Sorrow also took a bath. Then the two of them continued to move forward in the supreme river space. xianxia's combat power had greatly increased. Firstly, she had been refining the dragon spirit pill to increase her cultivation. Secondly, she had a sacred grade treasure sword. The power of her sword chi had increased exponentially. Using the sacred grade longsword, xianxia did not need to use the power of law to protect the longsword. She did not need to worry about the longsword shattering. The power of law could be used to attack, increasing her attack power. It was the same for Night Sorrow. The myriad Tao treasured books cultivation had increased again. Coupled with the fact that it was flawless, it made his combat power much more comfortable. Then the two of them continued to kill. When they were tired, they would enter the time-space treasure pagoda to recover. On this day when the two of them were killing, a nether beast with a gray crystal-like horn appeared. Night Sorrow, retreat. This is a 3-star sacred grade nether beast. xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Can you fight? If you can, I will clear the periphery." After Night Sorrow killed a nether beast, he switched between the space-splitting spear and the reincarnation spear. "Okay, be careful." xianxia shouted and charged towards the nether beast. The sacred grade nether beast had half transformed. It had the head of a wolf and the body of a human. It even had a battle sword in its hand. Night Sorrow knew that the nether beast was not a simple group of beasts. They already had a civilization and could forge weapons. They were no different from humans. While Night Sorrow was observing xianxia and the 3-star sacred grade nether beast fought, xianxia's cultivation was not as high as the nether beast. However, her realm was high and the power of law she could use was strong. With the help of the sacred grade treasure sword, xianxia was not at a disadvantage. After a few rounds of probing, xianxia began to display her speed. She circled the nether beast saint and started to attack. After a while, the 3-star sacred grade nether beast was covered in injuries from xianxia's attacks. Night Sorrow, who was clearing the battlefield outside, could see that xianxia could end the battle at any time. She was using this sacred grade nether beast to train and consolidate her cultivation. Chapter 763. Genius 1 second. Remember love go/little? We provide you with interesting novels to read. 1 hour later, xianxia pierced through the nether beast's head with her sword. She had used up a lot of her cultivation, so she did not plan to continue playing. The one and only authentic version, U is #P his FC is R? Pirate Gene version. Night Sorrow had also been watching for half a day. He had already cleared the nether beasts outside. After xianxia threw the nether beast's Saint Crystal to Night Sorrow, the two of them left for a distance and entered the time-space pagoda. Both of them sat down to recover and increase their cultivation. At night, the two of them ended their cultivation. While drinking tea, xianxia told Night Sorrow that as long as the nether beasts were not too strong, she was not afraid. She said that she could fight any nether beast below 7-star. At the very least, if she wanted to leave, the nether beasts would not be able to keep up with her speed. After cultivating the xuanhuan body, xianxia's speed was not far from her peak. The main thing was that she could continuously use the xuanhuan escape technique, which greatly increased her survivability. After cultivating for a night, the two of them continued to move forward and kill. xianxia told Night Sorrow to be careful because she could not defeat the 2 7-star peak nether beast saints that rushed out of the spatial tunnel last time. However, she could continuously use the xuanhuan escape technique, so it was not a problem for her to stay alive. In the middle of the journey, Night Sorrow and xianxia arrived at the second spatial tunnel that Night Sorrow had explored. After killing all the nether beasts here, Night Sorrow looked at xianxia. xianxia also looked at Night Sorrow. Now the question was whether to enter or not. This space should be an Earth attribute space. I don't think it is dangerous. The suppression level is indeed below supremacy. With your ability we can enter. xianxia looked at Night Sorrow and said. Night Sorrow waved his hand at xianxia. When xianxia stood beside him, Night Sorrow activated the Nihility protective shield and brought xianxia into the space. In 2 breaths of time, the two of them entered a space with very dense Earth attribute. The two of them saw some nether beasts below the venerable realm. Then they were swept by xianxia's sword chi and killed. At this moment, Shao Kong told Night Sorrow that there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy in front of them. Waving his hand at xianxia, Night Sorrow followed Lil Kong's guidance and flew forward. After flying for less than 20 li, Night Sorrow stopped, because this was the place that Shao Kong had mentioned. Taking out the sky-piercing spear and stabbing it into the ground, Night Sorrow planned to start digging. With a radius of less than 100 miles, this is a newly formed space. There must be a reason why the space could be formed, xianxia said. This might be the core. Let's dig and see. Since we're here, we can't go back empty-handed. Night Sorrow took the sky-piercing spear and started digging, while xianxia watched from the side. After a while, Night Sorrow dug out a spirit stone, and Night Sorrow directly collected it. After digging more than 2 zhang deep, Night Sorrow dug out a special situation. There was a large yellow crystal with 4 or 5 Saint Spirit stones around it. Under the Saint Spirit stones there was a corpse. Night Sorrow looked up at xianxia. He didn't understand the situation in front of him. An Earth attribute expert died here. This space should be due to his own reasons. It's mainly because it's close to the space barrier, so it mutated, xianxia said. Night Sorrow nodded. The yellow crystal wasn't a saint crystal, nor was it an origin stone. It was between the two. It should be an Earth attribute saint crystal that mutated after absorbing the power of the rules of the Earth attribute. Beside the corpse, Night Sorrow also saw a battle sword and a broken storage ring. This place is relatively stable now. It might not have been like this before. After being attacked by the power of the space turbulence, the saint-level battle sword was left behind, but the storage ring was torn apart by the turbulence. The energy here is dense because of the spirit stones in his storage ring. We came too early. After tens of thousands of years, the mutated origin stone will evolve into a space origin stone, but the effect is not bad now, xianxia said. If we take away the spirit stones and the mutated origin stone, this space will have no future. We can't do anything about it, Night Sorrow said. We have to take it away. We don't know what the future will be like. If the nether beast takes it away, we'll suffer a great loss, xianxia said. Night Sorrow nodded and took all the resources here. He also put the battle sword into his storage ring. The difference in attributes didn't mean much to him, but he couldn't leave the resources to the nether beast. The Supreme River space was a forbidden area to the 9 regions world. Only Night Sorrow could enter here, but to the nether beast, it was no different from its backyard. After taking the origin stone and the spirit stones, Night Sorrow and xianxia walked around the area. This newly formed space was very barren. There were no refining materials or alchemy materials. Night Sorrow looked at the oppressive space and sighed. This space would be like this in the future. There was no possibility of development. Then Night Sorrow and xianxia returned to the Supreme River space and began to move forward. Other than hunting the nether beast, Night Sorrow and xianxia cultivated in the Time Pagoda. Sometimes xianxia would help Night Sorrow nourish his myriad Tao Tome. A month later, Night Sorrow's myriad Tao Tome had reached the peak of the 3rd level of the God Refinement realm. At the same time, his elemental power had reached saturation. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow decided to use the power of desolates to strengthen his body. By then his body strength would increase by a lot. After greeting xianxia and informing Little Kong, Night Sorrow went into seclusion. After stabilizing his emotions, Night Sorrow circulated the power of the myriad Tao Tome. It rushed into his flesh, tendons, bones, and marrow. As the power of desolates entered his arms, Night Sorrow's arms moved rhythmically. His robes rotted and turned to dust. That was the erosion of the power of time. The pain of strengthening the body was very unbearable. Night Sorrow's sweat flowed down his face and his body trembled. xianxia was shocked. She knew what was going on. She knew that Night Sorrow was strengthening his body. She had never heard of such strengthening before. She also knew that Night Sorrow was in pain. She could tell from his expression. After 4 hours, Night Sorrow finished strengthening his arms. After strengthening his arms, Night Sorrow went on to strengthen his legs. Then the combat robes on his legs slowly turned to dust. Looking at Night Sorrow's sweaty face, xianxia wanted to help wipe it off. However, she realized that she couldn't move her body. She couldn't move at all. Looking up, xianxia knew that the space-time treasure pagoda was guarding her, preventing her from getting close to Night Sorrow. Helpless, xianxia could only sit down and continue watching Night Sorrow cultivate. After strengthening his legs, Night Sorrow went on to strengthen his chest and back. He planned to finish strengthening in one go. After his robes were destroyed, Night Sorrow's body was naked in front of xianxia. Looking at Night Sorrow's strong body, xianxia blushed. She never thought that she would have a man.